Yeah, it don't sound so. That was very 1%
I guess
under
so.
their breath.
As prepared as you
Okay,
can be.
okay, good, good. So
Yeah.
let me just give you my disclaimer because I've had review classes all week and for some reason they're not going well. And um yeah, I don't know. But let me just tell me tell me my part of the story and then you can tell me your part of the story. Okay, so the purposes of the review is for everybody to come together at the end of the course and show what they have learned, prove their understanding, share their ideas. And each person has to make a contribution. And basically, what you put into it is what you get out of it, right? I have to be very careful what I say, because I would have seen the exam and I don't want to give you the answers, or I just want to lead you in the right direction. And so sometimes is borderline, I tell you exactly what on the exam, and so we don't want to do that. And so everybody has to make a contribution. And so this week in my review classes, I always say don't read directly from the book. It's research based. Don't just come, sit down and read from the book. And you read, then put it in your own words, and let's test your understanding. And then please go and do some research. So we have some persons come in reading it right out the chapter, adding nothing from research, giving no examples, and then, you know, looking to me to give the answer, okay? Or looking for me to give more input, which is fine, but it seems as if I'm giving, this week, not this class, and I'm sorry to beat you up with the other class stick, but please, by now I hope you would have done some research. By now you should know what questions you're going into the exam to answer. And I would have hoped that you've done your research, and I would have hoped that you have some examples. And today you're sitting with your review sheet just to get like another person's point of view, or to share, the question that you had to answer. Okay. And so in with person's answers, I normally say, because like I said, I would have seen the questions, and persons may say, go on with an introduction, and they may go south a little bit. So I say, well, that's fluff, or no, you won't get any points for that. And persons have been taking offense. Somebody even said this week with Miss Bullet, that's very harsh. Okay. So I'd like some feedback because I don't want to be harsh. This is a learning experience. This is, here for you to be successful in the exam. So you let me know when what do I say when persons start to go south and they won't get any points? What do I say,
Miss Bullet, good
Jasmine?
Miss
morning.
So I'm
Bullet.
not offensive. So I'm not offensive to persons.
Good morning. Can I just say something right quickly? Um, I know for me, I can't speak for the class, but for me, be harsh, Miss Bullet, because I need you to be harsh now so that I won't get a harsh grade, if I may say it that way. Be harsh to me. Let me know if I'm going south. Let me know what's fluff. Let me know if I'm dead wrong, so that I will know better for when the exam comes. I don't want you to be gentle. I'm thinking I'm on the right track, and then when the exam comes, then the harshness comes. I prefer to be harsh now, step me in the right direction now, so that I can be on the right track for the exam. That's my view.
Okay, Ebony, thank you. But any other feedback from some persons who may no, because I mean I've been
I
getting.
share Ebony's sentiments, Miss Bullet. I mean, please pardon my Joshua, but to me, we're not here to be babied up. If the intent is to pass the course and you're not on the right track, then it's you're here to assist us with getting us on the right track. And if the delivery is harsh, then to me, the harsher it is, then the more I go back and think and I say, boy, Miss
Exactly.
Bullet said XYZ. Let me go and look at that, because for her,
Exactly.
I'm not making sense. And you need to make sense in order to pass. So please don't baby me up either.
Yeah,
Don't baby
I
me.
I agree. I agree with them both. Yeah,
Okay, okay,
because you would be
okay.
doing us a
Well,
disservice if you're not honest with us and brutally honest with us. Like it would really be pointless of this entire time, you know? So say what you gotta say, Miss Bullet. We're okay.
okay, okay. But like I said,
I totally agree, Ms. Bullard. I totally agree with everyone. Let us know so we would know if we're going off course or what. It's serious now. We have the exam is next week. So yes, you not harsh. I don't think it's harsh. You're just letting us know um um what it is. That's my take on it.
okay, okay, great. So again, I just don't want anybody to be offended or by anything. But like I said, all of this is to help you to ensure that you stay on the right track and, you know, make sure that you have the correct, answers and the correct examples. So please, nobody take offense. Okay? Um, so with that, I just does anybody have to get their using this class for their 5%, or everybody would have sent in their homework before we start?
I said
No?
that.
5% it says, Miss Bullet. How much 5% and 10% you giving out? There's one more on the table I know about.
No, Jasmine, that's for the persons who don't have it. It's like not everybody has it.
You giving out 5
So
or
I would just
10%.
Miss
10%,
Bullard, morning.
10% was for participation. So that's for the most part, this is the last day to participate, and everybody had a question. Now, in my other class, like I said, some people just didn't show up. They didn't send a message, and so we just bypassed those questions, and persons had to go in and do their own research. So that's how you get the 10% participation, answering this last question that was assigned to you, and then the 5% was for the civic organization. But like I say, I'm just giving 1 or 2 persons the last opportunity who has not attended any civic organizations, and this is their last opportunity to get the 5%.
Okay.
Miss Bullard, I attended
Yeah.
the civic organization, but could I do that at the end of the class, if you don't mind? Or you prefer to go now?
Yeah, I prefer to go now because everybody is not here. So this is why,
Okay, let's go
we
then.
use this time just to give
Okay,
persons the opportunity to join.
okay,
Yeah,
very
so
well.
just
So
before
I'll
you
go.
start,
Uh-huh.
before you start, I think Rosalinda wanted to say something.
Roslyn. Yeah, I just wanted to confirm if you have anything outstanding for me.
Okay, not that I'm aware of. You would have gotten your
Okay.
homework grade
I
back.
just want to make sure. I just want to make sure because I've been to every class except one, and I submitted my homework and I did the paper reading and the Kiwanis.
Okay, so you should be fine. Have you spoken to Miss Dean about the exam?
I have my email drafted to send to her now. I totally forgot that this week. Crazy week.
Okay. Yeah,
All right.
please, she's there today, so please, you can send that today, and just so you all can finalize it.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, great, great. Okay, go ahead, Talinda.
Okay, I attended on Monday past the Kiwanis Club of Nassau. The meeting was called to order by Madam President Shakira. I can't remember last name. They gave the objective of Kiwanis, and then a toast was made to the Kiwanis International. They did a toast to the Governor General, and they toasted to their guests. I guess that's what they normally do. To be honest, I didn't find the meeting interesting, but I still stayed on. It was virtual. I stayed on for the entire 1 hour and a half. They accepted apologies, I guess, from their members who couldn't attend. Then they had a part of the meeting called Happy Dollars, where they state what they were happy for, and they would give donations for whatever they were happy for in any amount. They had a committee report, and the committees reported on, I guess, the upcoming social events that they're planning for the Christmas season, one being the outreach at the children's ward at the Princess Margaret Hospital. They have 3 groups assigned to donate toys to the 3 children's ward at the hospital. And then they had a membership induction where 3 new members were inducted. That part of the meeting was most interesting to me. They had a cake cutting for the new members. They cut cakes and they allowed the new members to issue the first piece to who they wanted to. And most of them issued it to their sponsor, whoever had sponsored them into the group. After the induction of the new members, they welcomed the visitors and we were allowed to introduce ourselves and said who invited us. And I was invited by not Toastmaster, Kiwani Prayetta Dorset. After that, after the welcome, they collected the fines for the night. And they did a closing prayer followed by the national anthem. I was surprised that the national anthem was at the end rather than the beginning. And like I said, the meeting lasted for an hour and a half. And
Okay,
I
but
don't,
why didn't you enjoy it?
I guess, I don't know. It
It's not your
probably
cup of tea,
wasn't.
or
No, it's not my cup of tea. I thought it was more exciting. Now, mind you, don't get me wrong, Ms. Bullet. The members, they were very active. They were having fun, a good time with each other online. And they all seem like family, but it's not my cup of tea. It's not something that I would be interested in, not that particular civic organization. I probably will try
Okay.
Toastmasters or something else.
Okay, great. Okay, great. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, great. Okay, anybody else? So that would have covered everybody's 5%. Okay, anybody else? No? Okay. Okay, great. Okay, so we'll start off with the review sheet. And I think question one was question one.
Ebony and
And Melissa, good morning.
Okay, so can you start for us, please?
okay, this question is one that you said would be the mandatory, more than likely be a mandatory question. So it's a heavier point value. So we decided to add a little bit in terms of what Eggman Group is, and their purpose, and then we went into the cases. So the Eggman Group is an organization that consists of financial intelligence units and other international organization, and they created this, I don't know what you call it, a backer. It's a competition where they go and they pick the best cases, and that was in an effort to, I guess, assist with providing training for the persons who are part of the group to help them, I guess, to make them more knowledgeable, enhance their skills, etc. Some of the cases that they presented was on, of course, we were doing the one on corruption and bribery. So one of the cases in the book was regarding a PEP, and he was suspected of money laundering and terrorist financing. What triggered it was the fact that he was living outside of his means. This is the case based in Bahrain. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it properly, but he and it was several different transactions he did, but one in particular was where he had met with somebody from the Middle East, and he had asked that person to cash a European check and transfer the money in the value of euros 6 million to his account. There were a lot of different transactions going on, but the techniques in this was that he deposited large sums of money. Um, he used shell companies, and the transactions that he did was not, for instance, his deposit was 458. His withdrawals was in excess of $4,000. So that also raised some red flags. The methods that that was used in order to detect and gather and I guess compile all the information regarding him was to be gathering, collating, and analyzing. Am I on the right track, Ms. Bullard?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Yeah, so that's basically what they did. They were able to I guess, put a proper case together against him. Another one of the cases was involving a civil servant. I don't remember where he was from, 'cause I don't have it written here. He, again, his lifestyle was not consistent with his earnings. This is the one where he was taking the monies that he worked as a tax officer. So persons would pay their taxes through him, and instead of putting it to the treasury, he was pocketing all or most of it. Um, what I found interesting with this particular case was how many people that he had working in his favor. He had paid off the judges, he had paid off lawyers, even the prison guards he had working in his favor. And some of the techniques in this was the oh, I didn't mention him and his wife had also had forged passports for them to be able to travel even while they were supposed to be imprisoned. So some of the techniques in this was the fake documents, the unexplained wealth, the bribery, um, something called commingling of funds, where the company's money was going to him personally as opposed to where it should have been going. And again, in this one, they used the methods to get the information, such as analyzing. Um, they check phone records, collaboration with the international law enforcement groups, stuff like that. So that's basically a summary of the cases that the Eggman group mentioned in the book. And my partner, if that is it for that part, that's okay for that part. We'll let my partner but speak about the local cases.
Right, and so basically what you want to do is give an overview of the three cases that are at the back of the book, right?
Yeah.
And then you're going to compare it to what is happening in the Bahamas. Are we law-abiding citizens? Do we have any bribery and corruption cases, or none at all on our books? So Welisa will then add that part. Go ahead, Welisa.
Okay, good morning. Adding to what Ebony said, reference to the Eggman case with the PEP from Byron, I think that's how you pronounce it. A similar case to that would have been the case with the former senator and cabinet minister Elmer Campbell and her son. And in it, when explained that you would state that according to the Guardian, and you put the date that her son, Ms. Campbell and her son appeared before the courts, where prosecutors alleged that the son cashed a forged check from the Ministry of Tourism that was made payable to Campbell Chase Law. It goes further to say how both of them were charged with a total of 18 counts of money laundering. And prosecutors also allege that Ms. Campbell and her son laundered a significant amount of money by transferring the funds from their joint account to the account of the co-defendant in this case as well. Another example, reference to the civil employee. We have the case of former Minister of Labor and National Insurance, Shane Gibson, where he was charged with 36 counts, which included misconduct of public service, 16 counts of bribery, 2 counts of conspiracy to commit bribery. And you would also state that according to wherever you get the source from, but I got it from the Tribune, that he used his political influence to receive bribe over a period of 3 months from Mr. Jonathan Ashwood, total some $300,000. If another case can be used, you can also use the case of former environment and housing Minister Kendrick Dossett, who was also brought before the courts. He was accused of using his former ministerial position to extort and solicit funds as well. Reference to work done to move the debris from the Nassau landfill following a massive fire. Are we on the right track, Ms. Bullitt?
Yes, yes.
And also what I wanted to clarify with you too, Ms. Bullitt, on one of the cases in the Eggman group, reference to the PEP from Argentina, where hold on, I'm trying to read about the tax haven countries. I couldn't find an example or a case in the Bahamas, but I just gave, because it talked about this pep who was evading tax and stuff like that, like what we talked about in the class. So what I did, I just explained how the Bahamas is a tax haven country and was was a tax haven country. So that'll be sufficient to get enough points.
Yeah, and you just want to say, however, we have put, controls in place to ensure that, we have updated our laws to ensure that no matter what country you are from, you are not able to evade tax by bringing your money to the Bahamas.
Okay.
And then with all of the scenarios, you want to say, these are the controls that you can put in place to protect your financial institution. So how do you now protect your financial institution from Elmer Chase Campbell or Shane Gibson or the lady from Urban Renewal who open up an account, one for, I guess, for savings, the next one for urban renewal, and ended up with $1.3 million on her personal account, right? So what controls can be put in place to mitigate these risks, to ensure that these things do not happen again? Or what have we learned, from these scenarios? How do we now protect our institution from a reoccurrence?
Establishment of compliance unit.
Okay, well, each institution should have a compliance unit already. Remember, that's one of the requirements to get a license. You must have that MLRO on staff. And so therefore, that's the regulated function. So in order for you to get a license, so you should already have it, because, okay, think about it. These things happened at which banks? Royal Bank, CIBC, Teachers Credit Union, right? And so if we were, I'm just hypothetically speaking, if we want to prevent this from happening again, what controls do we put in place?
Would it be more of, I guess, more training? Right, just gonna say training. More follow up with
What
what
about
to
the
ensure that the
suspicious
policy.
transaction report?
What would technology updates?
I don't know if I'd say technology updates, unless you would say that, have a more savvy system for monitoring, right? That
Yeah.
ensures persons stay within their profile, right?
Yeah.
Because remember now,
What about Ms.
with
Bullock?
urban,
Oh.
Michelle,
No, sorry, I'll wait till you finish.
yeah, how did Michelle Reckley get $1.3 million into CIBC? When she opened an account for her salary where it was supposed to be $2,000 a month. So we're not doing reviews, right? Obviously, there's nothing to alert us to say that this person went outside of her profile, and then we're not monitoring properly. Because she probably could have got to $20,000, but 1.3 million before we realized that something was wrong. And if you read that case, you would see that there are at least 10 to 20 checks that were deposited and exchanged and before anything came to light. Same thing with Shane Gibson. What was it? 7 million? $7 or $8 million exchanged before anything came to light. And we don't even know necessarily if the police approached them or if the bank found something suspicious. Correct? We don't know if that MLRO filed a suspicious transaction report on Shane Gibson or the investigation was done outside. I can tell you at the Teachers Credit Union, they didn't even know. They were approached.
So that's a lack of monitoring then.
Right, by the officer.
Right, but let's remember now, this is Michelle Reckley would have been 2017 and 2016, because when the law changed, a lot of, she started off with 50 charges or 54 charges, and a lot were dropped because at the time of the crime, it was not a law on the books, right? Nevertheless, we were supposed to be monitoring from years ago. However, she got a lot of those charges dropped. So again, even today, I don't think persons are taking it seriously. Accounts aren't properly assigned, there aren't proper metrics in place. And reviews are always backed up because the same persons who has to be out on the road trying to bring in sales and meet those ridiculous targets are the same persons who have to complete these reviews. And so if you have 100 accounts, you know, the reviews are always behind. And so they may not even be trained properly. Or I was at one institution where their questions that in their account opening package did not ask sufficient information at the onset for you to even determine a profile, you know, so there are a lot of problems or a lot of issues that could perhaps cause you not to be able to monitor or not to be, you know, monitor properly. You know, some companies feel that in knowing your customer, oh, that's too personal. I can't ask that person if he's married. I can't ask that person if he's in, you know, relation to a pep or any of his friends are peps, you know, so you know, those are some of the issues we're working through right now. You know, it's very competitive, like I say, ridiculous targets to meet, especially in the offshore world. High network individuals, they don't want to, you know, give you all this personal information, and sometimes you know, you have to ask and they're offended by what you ask and you may lose the customer. And so, you know, there are various things, but like I said, either we don't have a system that alert us and we don't know what we are supposed to be doing manually, and the reviews are backed up. Okay, I'm telling you, with that same company that did not ask the right questions, by time is, you know, something happened across the account and we, you know, compliance sent a message, this review must be completed. They completed the review. They found out that the money was owned by a sheik out of the Middle East. They did not have that account labeled as a PEP account because his accountant was the you know, sign signature on the account, and he had brought in I think $50 million, and that account had like $1 million. So by the time they did the review and saw what was going on, he had already taken $49 million out of the bank and nobody knew. The system didn't pick it up. There were no alerts, you know. So by the time the FIU caught up, all the money was gone or transferred somewhere else and under the guise of, you know, somebody else, simply because that account was not categorized properly. It was not high risk, and you know, everybody overworked and overwhelmed, so nobody has time for reviews. Okay, so you want a overview of what the Eggman Group, the cases, overview of the Bahamas. Do we have anything similar? And then how do we avoid this? How do we stop the reoccurrence? What needs to now do? What are the controls to mitigate these risks? Okay, good. Any other questions on number one?
Yes, Ms. Bullitt, I have a quick question. Okay, with the overview of the 3 cases in the back of the book from the Eggman Group, are we required to list the exact countries or persons involved, or just give an example like, hey, this is a case that happened somewhere in the world? Do we need to be
No,
exact?
you need to reference the case, so sufficient information so that a case could be identified, you know. So not, you don't have to write out the entire case, but
Yeah,
you
that's
know,
what I mean.
sufficient information so you could identify that this is the case that you are talking about.
Okay.
And some of the homework, some persons were too vague. So you want the marker to be able to properly identify which case you referring to.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay, good. Any other questions? Okay, great. Remember, it's 20 points. So make sure you have, sufficient, a little extra than what you would do in the other 4 questions that you're gonna answer. So again, you don't have to write a book, but no more than 2 pages and it should be covered. Each other question should be no more than a page and a half. Okay, and detail, please don't be too vague that, and again, it's alleged, not, none of these persons were charged. So again, and the question may take a twist. What does the Bahamas need to do now? What are our next steps in to, prosecute these persons? What happened with Shane Gibson? Where are we at now in that case? Suppose the question says provide an update. What's the most current thing that happened with Shane Gibson now? Where are we?
The latest thing I
Is
remember
Candy
with
here?
that case was where, oh, sorry.
No, Candy told us, we discussed it last week. Candy, or the week before? No, okay, Candy isn't here. But anybody else remember?
I'm here, I'm
when
here,
she
I'm
said,
here. Sorry, I'm here, I'm
Okay.
here.
okay, great, Candy. Remind us where are we in case the question asks, give the most current update. Where are we with Shane Gibson's case, if we use that as our example?
Actually, with his case right now, I don't want to say without giving an, okay, his attorney is trying to draft up a civil suit. He's pursuing a civil suit towards the Commissioner of Police.
Okay.
The-
He's already
the
one cause,
action-
correct?
Yes, he has one cause. He's one cause, but at the moment, the government, what he's asking for, they are trying to negotiate a course that is suitable.
Okay.
The course is, what he's asking for is not reasonable.
Okay. And what about the reputational risk? What did he say about reputational risk?
Well, the reputational risk is he is not employable, and he cannot open business internationally or domestic because of the case. Even though he won his case, the charges, it takes a while before the charges squash off your records.
Okay. Okay. And what about the police
Because,
officer?
because he won by circumstantial evidence, it's not, the kind of way. So, yeah, that's the main reason why he's actually suing, because he's not employable, domestic or international. I don't know what he wanted to do international, but he's not employable, he said.
Okay. And what about the police officer?
That fell. Anyway, that situation, like every other situation.
Would you put on the exam about the police officer?
Nothing. I don't want to say.
Wasn't the police officer dismissed?
Right, I think you
Is
put
that
on
now being
there.
investigated?
The police officer was yes, the police officer was dismissed, but that's just it. They dismissed, but they still got their pension. They still can work again. They still could be contracted. They still could be a police reservist. So that's just like, okay, yeah, just something nice. The appease, I guess, Shane Gibson and his crew, but no.
Shane Gibson could work again too. I'm sure he could get a job somewhere.
I think the point about the police officer is that she's suspected of having coached the witnesses or corroborated their stories in order to assist the prosecution in their charge against him, which is of course against the law, right, and ethically wrong.
Mm-hmm. So I did not like that. She just was sent to him.
Okay, and so what would, if Shane Gibson now walks into our bank to open an account?
Oh, he's
And
automatic,
just seeing a, sorry, he's automatic,
a red flag.
but do
I think
we
he's
open this
red
account?
flag, but the fact that he was not convicted, he could be offered an account, right? An account services.
Yes, he can
Okay,
offer, but it'll be under so much scrutiny.
it
He
depends
wasn't
on your risk.
convicted.
No, but it
Oh,
depends on your
reputational risk of
risk
the
appetite.
organization.
Yes, and
Okay,
it
right,
depends on your risk appetite. Some,
Okay.
if your AML policy, and this is why we want to ensure that we read and we understand what our AML policy says. Some
Mhm.
policies say if you are charged, and some say if you are convicted.
I see. Okay.
You know, right. So as the compliance officer, you are to ensure that the organization remains compliant. So you have to make that decision. If it just says charged, then fine. You say no, well, our policy, we'd have to change our entire appetite and policy to accommodate his account, you know? But if it just says charged, I mean, if it says convicted and he wasn't, then thank God he's a PEP. Then you'll switch that over to the board. The board has to decide whether or not they're gonna do business with him, you know? But if he wasn't a PEP,
Besides being a
primarily,
pet,
they would be looking to compliance to make that decision.
yeah, he would automatically be referred to compliance department. Because he has to go under a lot of scrutiny, I would think.
Right, but remember, we are the compliance officers, and remember, this is decision-based, and this was what I'm asking you. Would you open this account for Shane Gibson, and why?
Would someone like him have to undergo, I guess, enhanced due diligence and have the board of directors sign off on opening up an account for him because of the situation?
Definitely. Yeah.
Because he's a PEP, because he's a
Yes,
PEP.
that would be a board
Yeah, but
decision.
if he wasn't a PEP, yes. We have had customers approach us. Remember, my company does the proximal report where we pay $1,500. And in that $1,500, when they dig up all the cases against them, then they go to their lawyer and their lawyer writes a letter saying that this is what happened in the case, he's been acquitted and blah, blah, blah. And then we make a decision based on, whether they want on a technicality or not, if we're gonna do business with them.
Put it aside for you, so you can pick up at Modern Designs. All right? Okay, thanks, honey.
Sorry, Patricia. Patricia, I can't hear you. Patricia.
I think she was talking on the phone.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
my
I thought she was
apologies.
talking yeah, okay.
I have,
right,
but I have
okay.
a question. I have a question, Ms. Lillard. Would it also depend on what type of business he's coming into the bank to open account for? Would it depend on what type of business?
No,
Or that has no-
it's the person,
okay.
remember? No, the person,
Okay.
the business can be low risk, but he is still high risk because he's a PEP. He would still be high risk because he has some criminal history. And so you want to, like I said, you want to be very careful on the wording of in your AML policy on what is an undesirable account. Is it charged? Is it convicted? Or are you not gonna, if the person was charged and if it's reputational risks and what have you, and so you just wanna, with that bank, would your institution want to be in the news as these cases are going on? Because you find out that's what really happens.
But another question, would it be on the discriminative side too, to do that?
But this is what I'm saying. You have to ensure that your policy, again, you have to remove, when you're making these decisions, always remove self. You simply respond. Our policy states that persons that have been charged, we are not allowed to do business with. So you want to always ensure that they're saying, well, Candy is F&M, that's why she's saying this. You know what I mean? So always remove self, use the title. They don't have to respect Candy, they have to respect the compliance officer's decision. It's not Candy's decision. Okay? So respect the position and respect the policy. And this is why you have to ensure that your policy is up to date, because you will have customers like this, right? And they will say that you are discriminating. Remember, we opened up the account for the US Army. He went and told his friend in Israel, and then we said, oh, no, that's where, behind Yahoo, very corrupt. But of course, we couldn't say that publicly, We had to say our risk appetite does not include Israel. Okay, so this, you have to prepare and make sure there's an escalation policy and exit policy in place. So you save yourself from, being blamed or saying you discriminating. And when you respond, you don't say, so I don't agree because of the reputational risk of Shea Gibson. You say compliance would not support the approval due to the reputational risk, due to our policy saying anybody that's charged. And on this date, he was charged. Okay, and so it's important to have these things in place up front to protect yourself.
I believe that's the same situation what happened with Adrian Fox. And he kind of cleaned up the money and went through somebody else. I think that's the same situation that happened with Adrian Fox. With
right, again,
Sebastian.
What do you do? What do you do when the prime minister and the head of the Anglican Church writing a letter, and he's not head, he's not the head. Fallacious is, well, the very senior member of the Anglican Church writing a letter on his behalf.
Hold on, he wrote I know, but the prime minister, oh my gracious.
But
he
Fallacious
must he had some
one
good
too.
donation to the church.
Yeah, he does make, he is a philanthropist. Like, how do you measure a man by what he does, right or wrong? Okay.
Right.
So again, now you see how difficult the decision process becomes.
Yeah.
When Adrian Fox shows up and you need to meet, the salesperson just needed to meet this target, and they say, oh, wow, this is a good account. He has now been, the US government 1 year ago said he was a fugitive. Today, he is a free man. He only had $5,000 fine to pay. Do you open this account for Adrian Fox? Considering that some of his besties on your board. Yay, no, maybe so. And you can have those people who say, the man is a free man, the man is a free man. You making it hard to do business. We can't meet
But
our
our
sales
policy
target,
says,
blah, blah, blah.
but we have to based on our policies and what we have in our policies that says friend or not.
Correct.
At the end of the day,
so make sure your policy is, you understand what it says and it's clearly written, because that's the only thing that's going to save you. And then you go to them and you say, okay, fine, I'm only here as advisor. Should you wish to change the policy, just let us know. Because they have the right. If they could change the policy for Adrian Fox, then that should tell you how powerful he is, right? And how much money he bringing into the bank. Right? And that's what I say. Then you have to, when you see more accounts like that opening, you have to decide whether this institution is within your appetite or not. Especially, and of course, you want to watch that account carefully for the first year to make sure nothing else, And after you would have monitored, then you're fine. And you say, okay, he ain't doing no money laundering through this account, then it's okay. Right? But be prepared for those type of decisions and make sure your policy documents it. Okay. So again, with this question, you do the overview, and then I'm certain the question is going to have a third part. What controls you want to put in place, and where the case is at, and if you had to make this decision, what would it be? Okay, so ensure that you read the question properly and answer all parts of it. Okay, good. Any more questions on question 1? Okay, excellent. Or good discussion. So you have enough meat to put in there, and you can do a little bit more research just to pull all your, your answers together properly. Okay, great. Question 2, sanctions, Rosalind and Jasmine.
Morning. Okay, so you could
Morning.
have. Babe, turn the call off. I don't know if they can hear me. Hello?
We can hear
Hi.
you.
Okay, good. All right, so our question is on sanction framework, sanction categories on COVID-19. So I will be doing the sanctions framework, and then my partner will do the other. So the Department of the Treasury's OFAC released a framework for sanctions compliance that is applicable to U.S. organizations and foreign entities doing business in or with U.S. parties or goods and U.S. persons. The framework strongly encourages.
Wait, why we singling out U.S. persons? Bahamas have sanctions.
Yeah,
Bahamas have sanctions. Canada have sanctions.
Okay, I'm gonna get to that as soon as I finish reading this part here. The framework encourages organizations to develop, implement, and routinely update a sanction compliance program that includes 5 essential components: management, risk assessment.
Sorry, say that again. That does what?
Hold on, let me put my window up. Hold on 1 second. Sorry, I drive in. So the framework strongly encourages organizations to develop, implement, or routinely update a sanction compliance program that includes 5 essential components: management, commitment, risk assessment, internal control, testing, and auditing and training. You were saying something, Ms. Bullard? I want to be sure on the right track.
No, I just didn't hear you. I didn't hear what you said.
Okay, you can hear me good now though.
Okay. Yes.
All right, so management commitment, delegation of sufficient authority and autonomy to compliance units to deploy its policies and procedures with direct reporting lines between the sanction compliance program functions and senior management with regular cadence of meetings. Location of adequate resources, human capital, expertise, ITs, and other resources to the compliance units, including a dedicated OFAC sanction compliance officer. Promote of a culture of compliance, including through an ability to report misconduct without fear of reprisal. Senior management messaging and sanction compliance program oversight of actions. Demonstrated recognition of compliance failings and implementation of necessary measures to reduce future occurrence, including through addressing root causes and implementing systematic solutions. Risk assessment. The assessment exercise should generally consist of a holistic review of the organization from top to bottom, and an assessment of its internal touchpoints where the organization may potentially directly or indirectly violate sanctions. The assessment may include risk posed by clients, customers, products, service, supply chain.
No, you're going too far. You're going too far.
Okay, so don't go, take that part.
Take out all that risk. Yeah, take all of that out. No.
Okay. All right, so assessment should inform the extent of due diligence to be conducted at various points in a relationship or in a transaction, such as at the onboarding or merger of acquisition activity. That one is fine?
No.
We'll take that one as well.
Tell us you already say, you say there were 5 categories. That's fine. After the 5 categories, what's in the framework? Give me some examples. Policy and procedure, what else?
Right, so internal controls. The purpose of internal controls is to outline clear expectations, define procedures and processes pertaining to OFAC compliance, including reporting and escalating chains, and minimize the risk identified by risk assessment. Policies and procedures that outline the sanction compliance program and capture the organization's day-to-day operations and procedures designed to prevent misconduct.
Okay. And
In
then what should, just move on to,
testing and auditing.
no, you're going too far. What should the framework include? Policies and procedures and risk assessment, roles and responsibilities, raising awareness, monitoring, escalation, reporting requirements, requirements for viewing sanctions related persons. End the story and then just give an example.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, give an example of, you know.
Sorry, Ms. Bullitt. Could you repeat the 5 categories again for me, please? You're going pretty quickly.
Go ahead, Rosalinda, repeat your 5 categories.
Okay, one second. Okay, so my
Okay,
5
policies and-
categories were,
Mhm.
hold on, risk assessment, internal controls, testing and auditing, and training.
Okay, and monitoring,
Why can't I hear?
escalation for decision making. Sorry, you can't. Sorry, what did you say?
Hello?
No? Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Bullitt.
Joby, we have that?
But Joey,
I
you
have
could,
policy.
Joey, you could find it on page 28.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so Jasmine will now read our sanction categories and give examples of them.
Okay, one on the bottom of 28 as well, you can use the processes should be subject to quality assurance that the investigation was completed in a timely manner, assurance that the quality of the investigation is sufficient, assurance that the audit trail is documented and sufficient, and thorough and continuous integration of results, and consideration as to whether additional training is required. And there are 2 more on 29. Okay, so specifically on the framework, that's what we're looking for, those categories as well as what should be done, and then an example.
Okay, because we have the testing and auditing, and we have the adequate training for employees and stakeholders. We have all of that as well. I just didn't get to it yet because I think I had too much information.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. I mean, you could list like 3 on each end and it should be sufficient because this question would only be worth 10 points. So on the framework, you know, 3 of the framework and then 3 of the assurances, and you should be fine for the framework part of it. Yeah.
Okay.
And then with an example.
Okay.
What would an example entail?
At the top it says sanctions list and screening. It is important to have sanctions controls in place at all stages of the customer life cycle and to perform due diligence on relevant parties to trade transactions, including the nature of goods and screening of ships. I don't know why it says ships. A robust sanction program should include screening employees. So at work, when we hire new persons, when they are onboarded, we do a background check. This on third parties. Remember the car wash guy at the Securities Commission, he defrauded them of $850,000 and they only knew his name is Yadi.
Excuse me, the car wash guy?
Yeah.
What?
Somebody left a computer bag or some bag. You know, we just hand them over our keys and we let them clean our cars, right? We don't know their names. We just call them Yadi or some alias. And like I said, if they had screened him, they would have found out that he was already out on bail for robbing Commonwealth Bank. So therefore, when he approached them and said, can I open up a car wash or can I clean the cars? They should have told Jeremy no, but they allowed it. And then afterwards, they found out that he was out on bail for robbery. And he stole 850,000. I think somebody left their computer bag with some checks that already had signatures on it. So he just wrote them up and cashed them.
Oh, okay, because I was about to ask, how was he able to steal the money? Okay, he had checks.
Yeah, so you have to be very careful, or we just put transfers on a sheet of paper and 2 signatures, right? And he could white out that person's name. It's supposed to be a transfer for Joey Dean for $1 million. You could put his name in it and take it to the bank. So obviously he had somebody on the bank side working with him, but like I said, he was able to get $850,000.
Wow.
Okay, so make sure a proper screening of employees, any vendor that comes on the property. Sunshine, sunrise shredding, the people you keep the storage facilities, the janitors, the cleaning company, and now the car wash people outside. Right? There's a lot of us do that, right? Leave our briefcases or bags or our wallet. How many times you have to go back and say, oh, my wallet ain't in my purse? You go dig through your car, the car wash guy, and you're saying, yeah, I see your wallet right there. All your signatures, everything. Okay, so be careful of that. Okay, good. Go ahead, Jasmine.
Okay, morning. In terms of sanction categories, we have categories such as diplomatic, sporting, trade, financial, or economic, and targeted sanctions, as well as terrorism.
Wait. Right. On page 26, it says sanctions can be grouped into 5 main categories. Counterterrorism.
Yeah, I have weapons for non-proliferation. I didn't, yeah.
Okay, where you get economic from?
But this is through research. I didn't just go through the book.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So you
Okay,
want
go
to
ahead.
focus on the information from the book, or because I did a broad research versus
Yeah,
just taking from the book?
Yeah. Okay, so you have an example on an economic sanction?
Yeah, economic sanction. There's it.
That's why, with this question, it's best to use the book. And unless you have a example.
Okay, but in the book here, I don't see the examples for these ones here, for these sanction programs.
Okay. We would have talked about it, eh?
I think we talked about
some
the
yeah, we talked
countries.
about it, yeah.
One of the, hi, Ms. Bullard.
Hi.
Well, one of the examples for economics sanctions would be where certain companies restrict other companies from exporting particular goods to and from their country, or levying import duties on goods to be sanctioned.
Okay, correct. Okay. Which
Yeah.
country?
Hold on, I don't have my book right now to give you an example as to which country. Hold on.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so Ms. Bullard, with this question, if we were supposed to go basically from what is the book, then we'll have to redo this over because I did a broad research. I barely looked at the book.
No, it's fine. It's fine if you have examples. It's fine. It's fine once you have an example.
Yeah. Okay, if I go into COVID-19 and the sanctions that was put in place for COVID-19, I have things. Yeah, I have things like Syria was exempted to purchase fuel for designated entities to provide humanitarian relief and assistance to civilians. That was something that actually happened. As well as Somalia was exempted for urgent humanitarian assistance. Okay.
Okay.
And that's with the COVID-19 because
and who helped them? Who helped them?
Sorry?
And who helped them?
I think this is from the US.
Oh, see what you say. Say that again. Say that again for me.
Syria
The
was
part
a,
about
sorry?
no, I was saying the part about the urgent humanitarian assistance.
Yeah. Okay, this is
Just repeat what you said.
this is from the US. This is what the US did for them.
Okay, so yeah, tell us what they did.
Oh, it didn't go into detail with that one. They didn't go into detail like how they went into Syria. They just said that Somalia was exempted for urgent humanitarian assistance. Because I wondered about that. I said to myself, like, what kind of assistance? That's all that it said.
Okay, so during COVID-19, I remember we talked about the Cuban doctors that went to, where did they go? To Italy. So some Cuban doctors went to Italy. Iran was blocked because of proliferation of weapons, and I think counterterrorism. And so the US tried to block Iran from borrowing money from the World Bank, from the IMF. However, the UK stepped in and loaned them 500,000 euros. And then the US blocked Cuba as well as Venezuela, and China stepped in. Okay, and so that's with COVID-19. And then I think we sent a plane of Cuban doctors to Dominica. So in terms of COVID-19, it's those 4 or 5 examples there that, you know, if you get the COVID-19 question, that's how you answer that. But let's get back to these categories, because like I said, this sanctions question is very, very easy. And you, like you said, you mentioned economic sanctions. So one example of the economic sanction, it says the US embargo of Cuba. And that's been a long-standing economic sanction. So of course, what does Cuba do? Cuba gets, well, first of all, the country is very self-sufficient. And if they do need aid and help, they get help from Russia and from different parts of Europe. So you would never see like American cars in Cuba or anything made in America. So China, Russia, you know, that's their workaround, where they get foreign aid and assistance.
Okay.
Okay, so go back to the 5 categories.
You want me to go through them again?
Yeah, but you said economic. I don't know if I missed. I don't know. Yeah,
Okay.
what are your categories?
Diplomatic, sporting, trade, financial or economic targeted sanctions, non-proliferation, human rights violation, narcotic trafficking, and terrorism.
Okay, you said sporting. What country has a sporting sanction?
Okay, I didn't give examples for these.
Okay, you have examples for any or no?
Only for, which was it? No, I don't have example for these. Only the human rights one, that's where they implemented the what's his name? Magnitsky Act, where they killed that that Russian journalist. Yeah.
Okay, so the United Nations has a sanction against Al-Qaeda and ISIL, and I think that's UNCR 1373. And its restrictions on providing assets to designated persons or entities, you know, that are sanctioned because of counterterrorism.
Okay, so basically for these, instead of knowing what they are, you want the example, the actual example.
You want to know what they are, and you want to have like one or two after you list the 5, or whichever 5 you list, then you want to have an example of 1 or 2.
Okay. Okay. All right. So then to wrap it up, we went into the various Bahamas sanctions that occurred and how they corrected it over the years.
Okay.
Do you want me to go through that one?
Yeah, I mean, share it with us. What did you do? Research.
Okay, in 2000, the Bahamas had been blacklisted by the FATF as being non-cooperative in the global fight against money laundering. And then in 2019, France blacklisted the Bahamas relative to tax information exchange agreement between France and the Bahamas, as they felt that the Bahamas was not responding to requests for information in a satisfactory manner. Okay. March of 2019, the Bahamas was placed on the EU's Annex the Gray List for being non-cooperative jurisdiction for tax purposes. February of 2020.
I wouldn't put this. I wouldn't put that with the sanctions question.
Which one? All of these?
Yeah, I wouldn't go into when we were blacklisted.
So what would be the sanctions for us outside of those?
We remember now, when you said the sanctions for Bahamas, remember we looked at the sanctions list where we have Libya and other countries,
Syria and stuff like that,
where we have a travel ban against this one and a travel. You see, yeah, that's what I thought you meant.
So you mean sanctions that the Bahamas have against other countries? Not
Yes.
The Bahamas being sanctioned?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I would stick with, if the countries that Bahamas have sanctioned and even though like Venezuela is heavily sanctioned, we can still do business with Venezuela because the Bahamas does not have Venezuela sanctioned.
Okay, so no, I did it the reverse way. I did it on why the Bahamas was sanctioned and what we implemented to be taken off those lists.
I don't know if I don't know. I mean, what type of, when we are blacklisted, what category of sanction does that fall under? When we are blacklisted.
Well, it would not fall under economic. I mean, well.
Yeah, that's economic.
No, because they didn't stop. They didn't stop anything, and I don't know if that would be targeted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yes, I wouldn't go that route. Because it may cause some confusion. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So you could talk about the categories, find 1 or 2 examples on the internet, and then you can say who the Bahamas. You can see the screen, right?
Yeah.
Who, like, we have something against Somalia and Rwanda also has a sanction for protection of persons by the UN as well, protection of civilians. And so, unless you're going to talk about Libya and the travel ban and arms embargo, like that, or Lebanon or Iran. See, Iran right here, it says proliferation, sensitive nuclear and ballistic missile program. So proliferation financing. Yeah. So you could just Google it and you'll be able to find some examples. Okay. And I would stick with the targeted sanctions as well as the categories from the book. Or like you say, if you go online, then you know, make sure you have 1 or 2 examples.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, we good? Any other question? Anything else you wanted to add, Jasmine?
No, that's it. Because I did it completely in reverse of what it is that you really wanted.
Okay. So yeah, the easiest way is to, like I say, get the categories from the book, find 1 or 2 examples, talk about targeted sanctions.
Okay. So that's what the focus on, just on the targeted sanctions and examples of those targeted sanctions.
Yeah, but if most of the time the question asks for those 5 categories, so you can talk about the targeted, but you also need to put in the non-proliferation, the democratization, protection of civilians, conflict resolution, counterterrorism.
Okay.
Okay, great.
So this is supposed to be an
No
essay
other questions?
form?
Yeah, all the questions are in essay form. Please, you are required to answer 1 mandatory and 4 by choice. If you run out of time, then you are allowed to list your last question only. You will not get points if you list your entire test. Okay, it's an essay form. Only the final question, if you're running out of time, you can, you know, make that list. Okay, and please don't answer 6 questions, whichever the first 5 is what'll get marked. 1 or 2 persons decided that I'm not going to answer the mandatory question, but I'll answer 5 of the 10-point questions, and they did not get any points. Okay, so be careful of that.
Okay.
Okay, we clear?
Yeah.
Okay, good. But
Sorry,
like I said,
the exam is 3 hours, correct? Or 3.5?
correct.
3, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so when, you know, if you time yourself, I would do probably like 40 minutes for the first exam. I mean, for the first question, and then perhaps 30 minutes for the next 4, 30 minutes each, and then a review. And remember, you can answer any question first. So if you got on the sanctions and you know your details, answer that first. A lot of persons get stuck, and then they get you know, irritated and fed up, and they, you know, they miss their easiest question. So once you put your name on each page and label the questions properly, label it not on the staple, but where you can see this is question 10 that I started with, that's fine. And then I went to question 5, and then I went to question 7, that's fine. Once it's labeled properly and clear. And please print, because I don't have an interpreter for some of the writing. So please print and write carefully, because a lot of times I can't even determine what the person was trying to say. You know, and especially if the person having difficulty explaining, they just start curving and joining on. Okay, so please print so I can read your writing.
Miss Bullard.
I'm sorry, Miss
Yeah.
Bullard. Is
Are there
that all?
taken off for spelling errors?
I didn't have the question.
Are there any points taken off for spelling errors?
No, but right now, at this point, you should know that you answering, which 4 questions you answering, and you know the mandatory, so you should write them out and get the correct spellings right now. So if it's to the point where we can't understand, then yeah, you may lose some points. But so please, you know, do your research now. And like I say, just do a practice run on, you know, and then read back, because a lot of times the question has 3 parts and we answer 2, or we start off and we say, these are my 3 examples, and then we forgot that we said 3, or we forgot that we said we're going to talk about targeted sanctions, COVID-19, and non-proliferation. And we talk about COVID-19 and targeted sanctions, and we forget about non-proliferation. So please allow yourself like that 15 minutes to go back and read and check and make sure what you will make sense. Okay? And let your hand rest the day before. No cooking and chopping up, and you know, because there's a lot of writing. So to the best of your ability, try not to, you know, let your hand be available for all this writing. And nice and relaxed. Have a nice breakfast and feel good, and go prepared, and you'll be fine. Okay?
Ms. Bullard,
Yes.
when you said print, do you mean all caps?
No, it doesn't have to be all caps, but just so I can read. If you have that nice cursive writing that I won't be able to understand, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, try to print. Yeah. Okay. We good with sanctions. And again, like I said, that question is very, very easy. You know, at the beginning of the class, person's like, oh, no, I don't want to do that. But it's very easy to get full points on that.
Noted.
Yeah. Okay, great. Number 3, to Linda and Devonia. I don't know if Devonia is here, to Linda.
No, it's just me.
Okay.
So question 3 is on risk framework, risk appetite, risk rating. It's a very broad topic, risk. So I was from chapter to chapter, a few chapters, so I may be back and forth with explaining. Risk rating deals with assessing the risks involved in daily activities of a business and classifying them. Risk framework is a structured set of guidelines and best practices that details a company's process for meeting regulatory requirements. And risk appetite deals with the level of risk an organization is prepared to accept in pursuit of its objectives. The risk rating of customers was established in the Basel Committee on Banking Supervision paper on customer due diligence. Companies are required to risk rate all client relationships, including the existing customer relationship. Such policies prevent reputation risk and keeps the integrity of the banking system by preventing the use of the bank for criminal purposes. Also, the policies complement the risk management strategy of the bank. Risk rating framework should take into account customer acceptance and ongoing monitoring policies and procedures that will assist the company in identifying the types of customers that are likely to pose a higher than average risk. And then we go on to speak about the risk classification, whether the customer is low, high, or medium, low, medium, or high. Risk rating, assessing the risks involved in daily activities of a business and classifying them, like I just said, low, medium, and high. Risk framework. Every company should implement a risk framework that is approved by the board of directors It should be capable of assessing the level of risk each client relation poses the company. Risk rating framework should include the following: KYC documentation and due diligence information. Should also include a process of the approval of the downgrading or upgrading of risk ratings through the periodic review of the customer relationship. The risk rating framework should also include distinction of client relationships by risk categories. Should also include satisfactory evidence of the identity of each customer. Risk-based due diligence is the customer due diligence is required when a company establishes a business relationship with a customer. You are required to verify the identity of the customer, know their full correct names. You are required to know their date of birth, their correct permanent address, know their purpose and nature of the business relationship that they are trying to establish. You could also include their occupation, nationality, estimated level of account activity, source of funds, and then for the high-risk customer, you are also required to know their source of wealth. I listed 4 stages of identifying and assessing risk. That's risk identification, that deals with the company's exposure to risk, which requires external knowledge of the market and company. Then you have the risk analysis, which deals with assessment of the probability that an event will occur and the consequences. Then you have the risk evaluation, where the company decides which risks to accept and which risks to mitigate. Then you also have the risk treatment, selecting and implementing a course of action to reduce risk. Risk rating, companies are required to risk rate all client relationships, including, okay, I already said that. Risk appetite is the last one. Risk appetite is the approach the company takes to risk. Companies should take note of the risk indicators to assess money laundering, terrorist financing risk. A company has to perform a risk assessment, which should be consistent with other operational risk frameworks. In order to conduct a risk assessment, the company must establish a risk methodology, which is a guide to the assessment. The risk methodology should set out how it works, easy to update, explainable, and it should be operational to staff. Average internal and external information. Risk assessment should be repeated annually. And annually, the risk identified should also be reviewed.
Okay, are you done, Talinda?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Okay, loads of information, but we just want to structure it properly. So when you talk about the risk framework, you want to say risk assessment, and then, you know, give all of the I guess the explanations for risk assessment, and then an example, like she said, it should be completed annually. It should be understandable by the staff, what have you. And then risk appetite definition, and then example, do we do business with Iran? Do we do business with high-risk countries? Yes or no? Do we do business with PEPs? What have you? And then risk rating, what are the categories? Place of birth or nationality, type of business, and amount of money that you're bringing into the bank. So, just make sure that you structure it properly, so you can get full points. And then another good thing to add in there is the 3 levels of defense when it comes to risk, stating that the front line is the first level, and then compliance is the second, and then audit is the third. Okay, but very good information. Just put it in order.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Any questions? No? Okay. Okay, good. Number 4, Shakira, and is it Isal or how do you pronounce your name?
It's a show, but you can call me Bakan.
Bakan. Okay, yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Hi, good morning.
Morning.
Our topic was the IMF, FATF, and CFATF Bahamas AML deficiencies. So basically, in December 2015, the CFATF conducted an assessment of the country's compliance with respect to combating AML and CFT. According to the mutual evaluation report that was devised from that, the Bahamas was found to be deficient in 22 of the 40 recommendations. One of the deficiencies was regarding the legislative framework for proliferation financing and targeted financing sanctions. And in response to this, the Bahamas then reviewed and amended the Anti-Terrorism Act to include such. Another deficiency was basically to ensure ensure and maintain high level of compliance and addressing best practice challenges in AML and CFT on an ongoing basis, basically. And as recommendation 1 states that you must assess the risk and apply a risk-based approach, and to ensure much vigilance on banks and trusts and securities, credit unions and insurance companies, regulators like Central Bank, Securities Commission, Insurance Commission, they all establish AML on the trust unit. Lawyers, accountants, real estate agencies, they are now globally categorized as financial institutions. And so before, they merely had the duties of customer due diligence. Now, since the update of the FTRA Act, the Financial Transaction Reporting Act, they now must conduct enhanced due diligence on clients. Another deficiency was the fact that non-profit organizations are now seen as a way of terrorist financing. For example, Bishop Lawrence Road's feeding ministry. Since the update of the Companies Act in 2019, companies are now, compliance unit was reestablished to ensure companies' compliance with statutory requirements. For example, the declarations of nominee shareholders and monitoring of these non-profit organizations. That's all I put. I only give like 4 points.
Okay, that's sufficient. And again, you just want to list where we were deficient and list what we did to update. So I think there's a non-profit law as well that was updated in 2019, and then the beneficial owners registry that was established as well. Right, so we want to just say what was deficient and what has the Bahamas done to become compliant or largely compliant with these deficient recommendations. Okay, so very good and good information. Any questions? Again, another very easy question to answer. You all got the update form. We know which 22, you have the report, the mutual evaluation report. You looked at the key findings, you saw where we were deficient, and then the update gives us information on what the Bahamas did to satisfy these deficiencies. Okay, so again, like I said, very easy to get 10 points, and you need three or 4 with examples and you're fine. You get full points.
Ms. Bullard, which report has the update on what we did about the deficiencies?
I sent out, I think I sent out the update sheet.
Yeah, she sent it out.
What's the name of the report? What's the name of the report?
Remember where we looked at the sheet where I say just put in everywhere risk, and you would be able to find it.
Okay, so is it the National Risk Assessment?
No, I can show you it right now.
It's called the Bahamas makes significant strides in the fight against financial crime. Update on the Bahamas National Identified Risk Framework. She sent it up.
I think Central Bank released it. I think that was from Central Bank. That's a report from Central Bank.
No, this one is dated 2020, September 24th, 2020 that she sent.
Okay, so that has what we did about the deficiencies in the mutual evaluation
Yeah,
report.
Yeah, if it came from the September 24th, I sent this out.
Yeah, yes.
It tells you what the Bahamas did and how it was done.
Okay, that's one, okay.
Okay, so be clear on that. Remember, and I said just go into the search bar and search up the topic that you're looking for. Right? If it's risk, put in risk. If it's terrorism, put in terrorism, and every bit is risk or terrorism, it'll come up. We good?
Yes, we good.
Okay. Okay, great. Okay, tax avoidance, Melanie and Shante.
Okay, Shante is not here. I think she's wasn't feeling well, she said. So she has part of the assignment and I have the other half, but I'll just give it all because she's not here.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I'm gonna thanks on the tax avoidance of evasion and the forms. I'm just gonna list the 10 points because it's pretty straightforward. On tax avoidance, it's just using legal methods to minimize tax liabilities. Point 2, legal exploits to the tax system. And claiming capital allowance on things used for business purposes. On the reporting of income, falsifying records, claiming fake expenses or dependence on return. Example, we do that on our custom duties when we come in from Miami shopping for Christmas. Shopping on the shopping in the cities to where we don't have to pay VAT on items. Bed basket items. And that's tax avoidance. And tax evasion is an illegal activity in which a person or entity deliberately avoids paying true tax liability. And that's number 1. And then number 2 is underpayment of taxes, false declarations, falsifying records, hiding interest, purposely underpaying taxes, hiding interest, and not reporting or underreporting income to tax authorities. And we have an example with the Shakira case in the Swiss, in Spain, where she was charged for tax evasion. And number 10 is just not paying.
What did she do?
I think she lied on her tax form to say that she was touring and
No, she resided.
I think she
said that she resided in the Bahamas. She's a citizen of the Bahamas, but she was
right.
on tour. Yeah.
Right.
So she has a house on Paradise Island.
Right. And they found out it wasn't true, and she had to pay all like $16 million US dollars in taxes.
Okay, so make sure you get the details of the case so you can document it. Just an overview now. Yeah, to document it properly. Yeah.
Okay, I'll just
sorry,
adjust
Patricia,
that.
you were saying something, Patricia?
Oh,
no. Okay, go ahead. No? Okay, go ahead, Melanie.
Okay, the W-8 ban form is a tax withholding form for reporting of individuals, number one, and foreign person that receive income in the US to establish foreign status and beneficial ownership, and to claim income tax in respect to income. Number 5 is valid for 3 years. Number 6, form must be current. And well, of course, it has your name, date of birth, nationality, and must be current. That's the W-8 ban. And the W-8 ban E is the same, but it's the institution that makes it different, that has the E on the end. It's a company for the W-8 ban E. And W-9 is filled out by all US citizens. Number 2, it's filled out by independent contractors that earns more than $600 a year, and freelancers as well. And it's used by the IRS to gather information on the workers. And it's requested for taxpayers' identification number and certification. And it's used in the US for income tax system by a third party who must file with the IRS. And the name and address have to be on the form as well. The taxpayer ID or social security number or employer identification. And is never sent to the IRS, but is kept on file for verification purposes. That covers that. Those forms.
Okay, good. And would it be a challenge with those forms? Remember, I had a client who he had a, what was it, a Canadian passport, but he filled out and he said he was a Bahamian citizen. Right?
Yes.
And then when we got the subpoena, what happened? He said, "Oh, I applied for Bahamian citizenship, but it was denied because I was out on bail." Right? And so that was a misstep. That was a misstep on our behalf, where we did not get that work permit or that citizenship. And so when these forms are completed, they must be verified, and it has to make sense. So if you say you are from Thailand, and you're not subjected to any US taxes, then you have to prove that you have a work permit in Thailand, or a residency permit. No longer can we just accept a telephone bill or a lease, right? You see, persons, particularly high network persons, have residences all around the world, right? And so we have to go a step further to make sure that the information on the form is verified and it is true and correct. And like I said, the next step after the form is to ensure, if it's not a Bahamian passport, then you ask for that residency or citizenship to protect your institution. Because again, while it's kept on file, if that person is in the market or investing in securities, there's an audit that has to be done a Chapter 4 status audit that has to be done every 3 years. And so internally, compliance or risk will be checking to make sure these forms are up to date and the information is correct, and then they are attesting that to the IRS.
Right.
Deloitte & Touche, then you have to get an external auditor to confirm. So then an external auditor comes in and checks that the information on the forms and the tax bracket that the persons are in, the withholding tax of 40% is collected. So could you imagine your compliance officer attesting that all our forms are up to date? And yes, we can confirm that these persons are able to invest in these markets. And then the subpoena comes and you find out that the person say, "I'm no longer a baby." So, or "I never got the citizenship." So of course we got a fine from the IRS for improper due diligence for allowing that person to invest when the information was not verified. We didn't carry out proper due diligence by getting that work permit or that citizenship. Okay, so if you work with these forms, you want to be careful, or when you do work with these forms, if it, if you work in an international bank that deals with securities, or with US accounts or what have you, you want to ensure that you go the extra step and verify or corroborate the information that was given to you. Okay.
Okay.
Good. And any questions on tax evasion and tax avoidance? And of course, the Bahamas was known as a tax haven for many years, and we updated our law in the IMF consultative statement to the Bahamas. They wanted us. In fact, they did. The European Union blacklisted us because when we updated the penal code and the FTRA in regards to taxes, but would we put in there that persons who evaded VAT or customs duty or whatever you would go to jail and could be prosecuted, and we did not put in international taxes. So yeah, that was a little bit of a blunder. So a few years after, I think in 2020 of December, the European Union blacklisted us in 2020. And then in December of 2020, the Attorney General fixed that. And so now it's everybody that evades tax, not only taxes in the Bahamas. Okay. So I don't know if we were using a staggered approach or it was just, more than likely it was a staggered approach for some persons to get their money out of the country or not be charged. Because like I said, my client was charged $6 million. So, and I wonder if he realizes at the time that he evaded those taxes, that it was not a crime in the Bahamas. I wonder if he could have won his case now, thinking about that. But anyway, nevertheless, he paid that $6 million. Okay, so very good. Any information, any questions on taxes? And again, very popular question. Almost 80% of the students answer the tax evasion and the sanctions question. Very easy, 10 points. Okay, you talk about tax avoidance versus evasion. You give your examples. Easy, 10 points. Okay. No? Okay, we'll move on to culture and the job description for the MLRO. Alfreda and Cindy. Thank you, Melanie. Good job.
Thank you.
Morning, everyone. Okay, so the culture of an organization determines how successful an AML CFT framework will be in an organization. The success of an AML CFT program requires the support and members of senior management team. Key players are human resources, legal and compliance, risk management, operations, internal audit, legal counsel, vendors, and third parties. Now, culture is determined by various factors. Some are the tone at the top. Setting the tone for a strong AML culture comes from the top. Leaders promote a positive and consistent message by having a clear statement about the organization's risk appetite and what the expectations are for the organization. Culture is also determined by leadership engagement. Ultimate responsibility lies with the leadership team in them understanding the money laundering, terrorist financing risks so that robust structures and compliance measures can be established and adhered to. The board of directors play a key role in ensuring that management is doing what it must to ensure compliance. Ongoing monitoring and compliance management is a requirement of the AML CFT framework. Systems in place should be clear and understood by all levels of staff and be subject to independent review. There should also be balanced interests. For example, employee incentives at all levels should reward behavior that supports a positive AML culture. Organizations should also ensure that sufficient resources are allocated to compliance, which includes qualified personnel and technology. An effective AML CFT control should be integrated into business processes, which includes training and communication being a staple in helping employees to understand why they are doing what they are doing and the implications or risk involved. Another vital factor to include in the culture of an organization is to ensure that there is a money laundering reporting officer on staff.
Okay. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes,
Okay.
we can hear you.
Okay, this is where my part comes in. MLRO. What is an MLRO? MLRO is an individuals appointed by the organization
Sorry, Candy, was that a question? Hello?
Sounds as though she's
I'll try to-
gone.
regulatory body with registration by the FIU.
Candy, you dipped out for a second. I don't know what happened, so we couldn't hear you.
Okay, you can hear me now. The speaker isn't working, and I trying to put my mouth as close to this old
Yeah, we
Chrome
can
I
hear you
have.
now.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
just
we
have to
can
get
hear you
close.
loud.
Speaking working.
Okay.
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 You want me to start over?
Yes, please, because we didn't hear anything you said.
Okay. MLRO. What is an MLRO? MLRO are individuals appointed by the organization or company's board of directors. They are the gatekeepers of information. In the Bahamas, the MLRO is a regulated function. They are vetted by the approval of the regulatory body with registration by the FIU. MLRO is responsible for designing and monitoring internal and external AML procedures, policies related to record keeping, reporting, risk assessment, customers due care, and diligent measures, and
Yeah, Candy, you went out again.
disclosures.
Candy, we can't hear you. Yeah, we can't hear you.
You can hear me now?
I can hear you now, yeah.
Secondly, the MLRO is responsible for organizing and arranging training for the staff on anti-money laundering procedures. The post also involves receiving internal or non-internal disclosures of suspected money laundering, financial crime, or terrorist financing activities, and deciding whether or not there is sufficient evidence to warrant disclosure to the senior AML risk manager or FIU. Going down further, the job of an MLRO is to act as the focal point within the organization. This post should be at a senior level to be free to act on his or her own authority and to be informed of any relevant knowledge or suspicion in the organization. Also, MLRO is to report to the governing body of an organization at least annually on the operation and effectiveness of an organization's AML procedures.
Okay, very good. What are some of the challenges with the role of MLRO, Candy?
Some of the challenges with the AML is not on compiling. What I gathered, most of their complaints was report, the annual report, and ensuring that the board of directors accept it, and it's follow through, filter down to the staff. That is one of the main information I got when I asked 1 or 2 persons who work in that area.
Okay, great. And another problem is its independence.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
know, a lot of CEOs wants the compliance or the MLRO to report to them. Then they want the MLRO compliance officer to wear many hats, whereas your corporate, your risk, your AML, and your regulatory. So you want to ensure that you're not overwhelmed. And if you have a legal background, they want you to be legal too. Okay, and so
Okay.
you have to ensure proper segregations of duties, and you can't have the checker checking the checker. So you want to make sure that there are sufficient senior persons in the position to help support the position. Okay, and then another issue is that they make you operational. They have, because nobody else in the institution knew how to do CRS and FACA, and it was new. They sent compliance out to do CRS and FACA, and now some institutions have not even, you know, hired a operational person to carry out those tasks. So it's still stuck with compliance. So those issues you want to ensure, you know, they're remedied, or you don't get, you know, stuck in those positions, or you find solutions, or you identify them up front, okay, in your department. Alfreda, thank you, Candy. Alfreda, culture, tell me something about the culture in the financial institutions in the Bahamas.
I'm sorry, fix this. Just I want to say, no, I'll leave that for another time. But I would want to be excused right now because I have to go back to the doctor. This is my last rodeo. So I need to go. So this was only waiting on my time. So can I be excused?
Yes, Candy, and take care. And it was a pleasure to meet you. So good luck
Okay.
with your exam.
Okay.
Candy.
And schedule with Miss Dean, please. Because I
Okay.
think you're an Apple as well, right?
No, I'm here. I'm here now. I'm here.
In Nassau? Oh, okay. Okay, still schedule with Miss Dean. Okay, take care.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
That's all the best for everybody else.
Thanks, Candy.
Take care.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Alfreda?
Yes, ma'am. Could you repeat the question you had asked, please?
What is some of the issues in the Bahamas we have in the financial institutions with culture? What are some of the cultural issues?
Well, one of the main ones, similar to what Candy was explaining with the MLRO function in terms of independence, a lot of times you have, well, culture is first determined by the tone at the top. So you would have senior management who may not feel as if, you know, proper AML procedures are important. And because compliance is not I guess a money making or revenue generating function, they tend not to place as much importance on it as other areas. And so because of that, they tend to be a bit lax and would want certain, I guess, sales components to take priority over what we should be doing to make sure we're complying with like laws and regulations. So I think that's like one of the main issues we have with the financial services industry, just making sure that management.
Yeah, very good, very good. And what would be a solution to that issue?
A solution to that issue. Well, management just has to be, I guess, held accountable. There should be, I guess, something in the policy to say that if a certain person, senior management, isn't doing as they should, there should be some sort of policy whereby staff could report that manager to someone higher up. Like if it's the CEO, go directly to either the board of directors or to the regulators, or if it's someone in compliance.
What's the name of that policy? What's the name of that policy?
Whistle.
Ah, okay.
Whistleblower.
Whistleblowers.
Whistleblowers, right.
Whistleblowers policy, correct, correct. All right, great, great. And so also training, before 218, it was just the lay staff, or the operational staff in the branch that were trained up to the CEO. After 218, there was a board engagement policy. Now the board has to be trained as well. And so in your training, on AML with the board, of course, you want to touch on culture. Of course, you want to touch on the MLRO, and you want to say, this is how it, should be done, or this is what is happening versus what is the compliant way, right? And so you have to advise the board and make them aware through training that, laws are not being followed. And the Securities Commission even went so far as to even put in policy in one of the AML policies that the compliance function can only be the compliance function. You cannot be risk, you cannot be legal, you cannot be corporate. Do they listen? No, but we would need to advise the board. And then, I don't, when we, the regulator gives you like, a meeting each year where you explain your issues to them, or when they come in order to explain that, I wear 5 hats. And so they will advise the institution that this is not allowed, and hopefully become compliant. Okay, so yeah, so you want to list in, again, get towards the Bahamas, if you're going to answer this question, what are some of the issues and how do we fix them? Okay. Okay, very good. Any questions on culture and the job description? No? Okay, very good. This is going very well. And I'm very pleased with all of the answers, and it really makes me feel like, even though this was very quick and rushed, and everybody is still retaining, and there's a strong level of understanding. So I'm very confident that y'all are going to do well on this exam. So very good. Number 7, Brittany and Rosalind.
Hey, good morning, everybody. We actually did a PowerPoint too. So if we could just share the PowerPoint, please, Ms. Bullard.
Yes, go ahead.
I don't think it's allowing me to share though. That's it.
Let me see. Share. Okay, try it now.
Okay. Okay, I can see it now. Just give me one moment. Okay, so there's actually a part that we didn't get to put in, but I'll still read it. So we started off by defining what a suspicious transaction actually is. So we said a suspicious transaction begins when there is some level of uncertainty that is out of the customer's usual transaction history. Sorry. This can result in an entity deeming it as uncommon, therefore filing a suspicious transaction report. There are instances where customers feel no need to disclose the unusualness of their transaction. However, once measures are taken to support any reasonable doubts that an employee has, that particular employee is obligated to submit an SDR to the company's money laundering reporting officer. The SDR should have sufficient information to support the suspicion that the employee has. However, the MLRO should conduct further investigation to determine if the transaction is indeed suspicious. The MLRO then sends this report to the agency responsible for receiving SDRs, which is the Financial Intelligence Unit. And then from an RBC standpoint, annually, all Royal Bank of Canada staff are required to complete a series of mandatory ongoing training as it relates to anti-money laundering and counter-terrorist financing. And for this, we'll focus on.
Hey.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that part. But some examples that we have of suspicious transactions are that there's a frequent turnover of shareholders, directors, or trustees, or underlying beneficial owners. So in any instances, if you see that shareholders or directors within a company are constantly changing, that's a reason to be suspicious that there may be some practices of terrorist financing or possibly money laundering. Also, when a client is unwilling to speak about who is possibly being onboarded to conduct some new business with the company, they're unwilling to disclose their source of funds, whether it comes from whether they inherited wealth or they inherited a company or the amount of income that their business brings in. And then also payments or settlements to or from an administered entity that is of a size or a source that wasn't expected. So if you know, so for example, if you know that you're a company who usually brings in, say, $20,000, and then one day you start bringing in probably 50,000 or 60,000, that threshold that you've gone over is significant, and that's reason to become suspicious of, whatever the source of your business or whatever money it is that you're actually bringing into this particular account with the bank or with the financial
Okay,
institution.
can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
I had a 80-year-old client being taken off their very sick, incapacitated bed and wheeled into the bank to add a family member to their account. Now, previously, we had spoken because we were concerned at one point when we did a review, and we said, Miss So-and-so, have you made any preparations? Do you have a will and whatever? And she said yes. And she said, can you all keep my will in safekeeping? So we said yes, and we placed it into safekeeping. So here is this family member now putting her into a wheelchair and dragging her into the bank. Is that suspicious?
I mean, I don't think it would be suspicious because there's an actual reason that she is coming into the bank. She's elderly and the business is being conducted. She's doing the business, but I guess in a way it's also being conducted on her behalf.
Okay, but suppose from the conversation, she says that she's being forced.
And that's different, eh? Because she'd be under duress.
Yeah, that would be different.
Is she of sane mind?
Sound mind, right?
She's of sane mind, and she's saying, I told them I didn't need to come to the bank, and I told them I don't want any money, and I told them.
So that means she's being forced. She's being forced, and you shouldn't do it.
Yeah,
Call
but
the
the fact she's
po-po.
being forced, she shouldn't.
Call the police right away.
Okay, right. So would you again, and I just want to bring it, awareness. It doesn't not only have to be transaction, but like Brittany said, when you constantly changing your not shareholders, but directors and what have you. And what we have seen in the offshore world is a lot of persons, they come in and they open the account, they get through the onboarding process, and then they say, well, I want to give power of attorney to Perry Christie or to Fred Mitchell or to Hubert Minnis, because you not Hubert Minnis, but the others are lawyers. So what we have found that those accounts, when we dig deeper, it doesn't seem as if it belongs to that person. It seems more that it belongs to the Perry Christie's or the Fred Mitchells or the Hubert Minnis.
So then that is
Okay,
something that
have you all
If
seen?
there's monitoring put in place for those accounts to see what kind of transactions going in and out of those accounts?
Yeah, but they are normally business accounts, and so it's easy. It's easy. By now, everybody knows what the bank needs, right? And so they establish a company and they know how to fix the profile from the onset, and so they stay within. But you would realize that you never ever hear from the beneficial owner, or Perry Christie is always doing the transactions, and I mean, and people do have persons to manage their accounts, but you would find that the beneficial owner knows nothing, absolutely nothing. And like I said, I closed down a bank in December, and that's what we found when we were trying. We told them that we would assist them opening accounts at other banks, and that's when it started to come out that, well, this ain't really my account. That's this was Perry Christie's account. Then you find out that Perry Christie was a pep down in Mexico or in Antigua or somewhere, like a consulate general or something to that effect. So yeah, so you want to be careful with that as well. And same thing about that same case what I told you about the sheik out of the Middle East. That's what we found, that the money was not, it belonged to the sheik, so that should have been a PEP account as well. Okay, so just to create some awareness. Okay, go ahead, Brittany.
Okay, so in an SDR, there are certain information that should be included in the report. So the Financial Transactions Reporting Act 2018, it gives some insight into this. And it says some of the information that should be included is the type of currency that was involved, the date the transaction took place, the nature of the transaction, the name of the individual who made the STR, and then other information as well. So does the law actually require the contents of an STR to be disclosed? Well, according to section 27 subsection 2 of the same act, it provides that no person shall be required to disclose a suspicious transaction report or any information contained in the report or provided in connection with it in any judicial proceeding unless the court is satisfied that the disclosure of this information is necessary in the interest of justice. So who's actually in charge of filing the SDR? This could actually vary because traditionally it's the money laundering reporting officer or the compliance officer who reports this unusual activity to the financial intelligence unit. But businesses or ordinary citizens who think that certain financial activity is suspicious can also make this report. But it says, usually an MLRO or compliance officer sends the STR to the FIU so that they can carry out further investigation, then pass this knowledge onto the police force. But currently, any civilian or business entity can file an STR as well if he or she reasonably suspects money laundering or terrorist financing is happening. And then the Compliance Commission, they gave a presentation on the same topic of STRs earlier this year. And they said that the procedure for filing an STR involves an employee reporting his or her suspicions of money laundering and terrorist financing to the MLRO. After the MLRO receives the information from the employee, he or she then conducts their own independent investigation. And this is done in order to confirm the suspicions of the employee. And then once the suspicions are confirmed, it's then filed. The MLRO then files this STR electronically on the FIU's electronic filing platform. And the platform, it's beneficial because it allows MLROs or designated reporting officers who are registered to complete, file, and submit the STRs along with the supporting documents safely and securely from the comfort of their offices. So despite the common method of STRs reaching the FIU through its platform, in order to comply with Section 25, subsections 2 and 3 of the Financial Transaction Reporting Act, the same information it can also reach the FIU through fax, email, and in case of emergencies, there can also be an oral report on this information given. So enough information should be disclosed so that it indicates the nature of and the reason for the particular suspicion. Then when a registrant has additional information that could be beneficial to the investigation, the nature of the evidence should be disclosed.
Okay, Brittany, let me interject because I'm still confused by slide number 5. Can you go back and explain slide number 5?
Okay, slide 5. Okay. From what this particular section 27, subsection 2 is saying, that, I mean, honestly, when I read it, I was a bit, I read it, but I was a bit confused by it as well. But what I get from it so far is that in judicial proceedings, this information, yeah, in particular judicial proceedings, if the STR itself was to go to court, the particular information wouldn't need to be made available to the parties involved unless the court deemed that it would be in the best interest of the case or that particular situation. But I still wasn't.
Okay, so
absolutely
that's
clear.
the disclosure order.
Yes, ma'am. I
Yeah.
guess it could be read that way. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Joey, I know you have a legal background. Are we on the right track?
Sorry, just reading section 27 on the screen now. No person shall be required to disclose a suspicious transaction or any information contained in the report provided with it in any judicial, right, and so, yes. So this
Okay.
section would come into play if the court requires only by order of the judge. So it should not be disclosed otherwise.
Okay.
So
Okay,
if
and
there
that
are
means they will
proceedings,
send that disclosure order.
yes, so the judge would give an actual order, and then usually within the order, the judge discloses how the information ought to be provided and to who, because sometimes it may only be necessary to provide it to the attorneys on the case and the judge, his or herself, and
Okay.
not everybody who's a part of the trial.
Okay, and again, I don't want, because immediately, I don't want the confusion with failure to disclose, because it almost makes, if you don't read this carefully, we
Right,
all have a duty to, right, so I don't get confused, please. Remember, there's a fine for failure to disclose, there's a fine for tipping off, so don't let this is only for proceedings, okay?
Right, 27 is by order of the court.
Right, yeah, so just don't be confused. I was a bit confused, so y'all don't be confused. Okay? Okay, good. Good, thank you, Brittany. Go ahead. Thank you, Joey.
Okay, no. Okay. Found it. Okay, and then where civilians and business entities are concerned, the first step is to fill out the suspicious transaction report in its the form that is in its entirety, then to submit the form to the FIU with the supporting documents, and then for the FIU to analyze the findings, and if they hold any merit, to pass these along directly to the Royal Bahamas Police Force so they can conduct further investigation. And then there are also penalties. So the penalties can be found in section 49 of the Financial Transactions Reporting Act, which provides A financial institution which intentionally fails to submit a report to the Financial Intelligence Unit as required by sections 25 and 26 commits a summary offense and is liable to imprisonment for a term of up to 5 years or to a fine of up to $500,000 or both.
Who going to jail, the CEO or the account officer?
With this.
Council.
The account officer or the
The account
CEO?
officer.
I would think everybody who signed or authorized the form.
Everyone who was involved in the transaction, I would
Yeah.
think.
Okay, yeah, so let's go back to the Michelle Reckley case. I can't confirm. I don't think they filed an SDR unless they were watching the news and they kept hearing all these things, what happened with urban renewal. And I'm surprised only Michelle Reckley, was involved. Because I remember Algin and Allen, I remember Mother Pratt, all of them, were on the TV where people were complaining that, they were approved for their house to be fixed. And 3 years later, nothing. And then Mother Pratt came on and said, y'all are ungrateful, blah, 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 blah. And then all of this thing happened with Michelle Reckley. I don't know, and again, prior to 2008, was CIBC and the Teachers Credit Union monitoring? Did they know anything out about profiles and making sure that it's, these persons stayed within their profile? I don't think so. So again, okay, this law came into 18, and I guess they can win their case if the court says that we want to find this financial institution for not filing those SDRs. But I don't think they're going to backtrack it. But just how Michelle Reckley got some of her charges dropped, I'm certain the banks will get, say, but this happened at the time before it was law on the books. So yeah. Yeah, but going forward, in a book, we see where so many companies were fined. We watched Dirty Money and we saw the fines, even though, it wasn't justified. I know that so far, only under the risk assessment, not submitting that on time, some banks were fined, but I'd be very, I waiting to see these penalties on these financial institutions, being implemented. Okay, just wanted to say that. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Rosalind will actually take over from this point on monitoring systems and the other part.
Okay, but try to condense this now because we don't want to give them too much information. We want them to focus on this is what is needed. What could possibly be the question on the exam? How do we answer this? Right?
Okay. So Brittany, what I'll do, let me answer my phone where I can narrow it down, okay?
Okay.
Yeah, and how do we cooperate?
Okay, so
how do we cooperate also?
Okay, so first, I feel that in order for the company to be efficient, to efficiently combat AML, a good prevention framework must be put in place. I think all staff should understand the importance of having integrity on the job and operate in an ethical manner in accordance to the company's policy and procedures. There should be continuous screening of clients' information in terms of clients' due diligence, any change in transactions or any change of their transaction history, basically. The compliance team is highly dependent on all departments to provide update information and reports addressing compliance risks. In reference to cooperating with authorities, an interesting difference in the way information is communicated between entities is that while an SCR can be sent to the MLRO electronically to the FIU's online platform, the Bahamas Mutual Evaluation Report 2017 points on information that the FIU and law enforcement agency pass to each other the documents only by hand, is only delivered by hand. Also, we have here the FIU has a formal agreement in the form of a memorandum of understanding with the Bahamian Customs Department, which demonstrate a willingness to permit the FIU search the department database for financial crime offenders. This one here, I was not too sure about, Ms. Bullard. You could let me know if that is important, and you could probably
Which
elaborate.
one?
The one where I have here, the FIU has a formal agreement in the form of a memorandum of understanding with the Bahamas Name and Custom Department, which demonstrate a willingness to permit the FIU search.
No,
the
no, too much.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right. So it's just basically continuous monitoring of clients' due diligence, changing their appetites, putting certain quantitative methods in place. Also
Knowing how the system works,
right,
understanding how the system works and what you need to do manually.
Right.
Correct. Remember, I said some of us have to do some things manually and we don't even know.
Right.
Right.
Another thing I wanted to say about the SDR, the suspicion transaction is also about the retention, the company making sure they have documentation stored away. So in case a case come up and is requested, you have supporting information.
No. We don't want to say documentation stored away. What's the requirement for record keeping?
7-year retention.
Yeah, under the Securities Commission and under the central bank is 5 years. So you want to just say you have to know what your regulators minimum standard for record keeping is.
Okay. Okay, so that's 5 years by central bank. The commissioner is 7 years of retention.
Securities Commission.
Sorry, 7 years. That's basically it.
Okay, talk about it. Did y'all have cooperation as well?
Yeah, I skimmed through that.
What did you say about cooperation?
Cooperation we have is where we said that the SCR is sent from the employee to the MLRO electronically. However, in terms of the FIU and the law enforcement coming together, they delivered the document by hand. They will submit, the FIU will submit the information to law enforcement to further investigate the SDR.
Well, why are you saying they can deliver? Where you get this from, but they can deliver it by hand? They have a online system now where you upload everything. What are you talking about?
We were referencing the report for 2017, sorry. The Bahamas.
Yeah. Okay, so don't put, that ain't relevant. Remember, we want to scale down the information. We have a lot of information because 18 slides is a lot of information. We want to scale it down. We need 10 points, right?
Okay.
Give me 10 points. Or 5 because you already talked extensively about the SDR. Now give me 5 points on working with the cooperating with the authorities.
Is we missing out of that?
I can't see you. You have monitoring up on the screen. I can't even see
Brittany, are you able to go down to that screen? Because I'm not sharing. Brittany is sharing.
I just moved it.
Okay.
I just moved it.
Let me go back to Zoom.
I can't read all of this. Give me 5 points.
Okay. Well, honestly, Ms. Bullard, with cooperating with authorities, we were looking, but it was kind of difficult to narrow it down to how they cooperated with each other in 5 points.
No, how do we cooperate? What did we learn in the class? Remember, we did a chapter on this. You could have gone back to the recording and listened to what did we say? What do we do when we cooperate with authorities? Chapter what? 8 or 9?
It was chapter.
So remember, we talked about it. When they come in, you put them in a private office, right? You try to avoid any reputational risks.
Okay.
Right? You want to avoid any reputational risk. You want to keep it as confidential as possible. You want to bring somebody with you as a witness. You don't want to give them, you still have a duty of confidentiality to your client. So you don't want to give the entire file.
Okay.
Right? You want to give specifics relevant to the case. Yeah. Yeah. So those are the points that we would be looking for on the cooperating.
Okay.
I like chapter 9. Chapter 9, only 1 page.
Yeah. But we talked about it. This is why it's discussion based. Yeah, so sometimes you gotta listen back to the recording. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, very detailed, ladies. But again, like I say, for your essay, you've gotten full points. For the exam, we want to scale it down, okay?
Okay.
Some good information. Some very good information. Okay, any other questions on STRs? No? Okay, a good thing is that persons normally get points when they throw in failing to disclose and the penalty, and they use an example, and tipping off and the penalty. Yeah, so make sure you have an example in there if you're gonna, answer the SDR questions. Okay, like the peanut boy opening the account and then depositing 10,000, or like I said, the Grammy coming in and saying, I didn't ask you all to bring me here, and my will, we had the will in safekeeping. And so when she started to get upset, I told her, I said, go out and pull that will. Let me just see if any of these persons or who this money is going to be left to. None of them were on that will. So thank God we had a copy, so we was able to, verify right then. And we was like, this is very suspicious, and there are loads of cases that are out there in the courts on inheritance issues, and persons, they have a will and the executor did not execute the will properly, or Royal Bank went as far as to say that we're no longer going to be involved in all of these issues. And so each account is joined with right of survivorship. And so Royal Bank closes the account. I think we talked about this. They close the account when you want to add somebody. And so if me and Brittany, if I had an account for 50 years and now I say add Brittany, they're going to close out that account and establish a new account with Brittany and say it's joined with right of survivorship. But the courts have found now that that is Canadian law and not Bahamian law. So
that's
Royal
changed.
Bank
They
really
changed
does not
that.
have the right to do that.
They changed that. They changed that. You could
They
add people.
changed it. Okay.
Yeah, you can add people, and we had
Yeah.
an influx of clients coming in to do that after that was changed.
Yeah, yes, because that was Canadian law, and some court cases were in the courts for 10 years trying to fight that. Okay, and so I guess after so many people complained, just like how we complained about the $20 bill. Yeah, so okay, good. It's good that that has changed, because that was causing a lot of problems. Sorry?
That is coming back too.
Yeah. I saw the news. I saw the news. So now we just need the interest, and then y'all will be back in our good books. Get rid of Trinidad, give us back our interest, and then you're back in our good books. Okay. Not yet, not yet. Okay, good. Okay, any, sorry?
Not the interest.
Not the interest, not yet. Okay. Any more questions on SDRs and cooperation with the authority? We understand what we need to do to answer that question?
Yeah, I understand now.
Okay, great. Thank you, Brittany and Rosalind. Recommendation 1, Patricia and Joey.
Hi. Can I share my screen?
Sure.
You can see this? Hello? No, we
I
can't
can't
see.
see anything. It says Patricia started, but it's not showing.
Hold on. Okay, I obviously cannot do that then. Okay, I can't do it. So let's go on because of time. Okay, we're doing recommendation, Joey and I, recommendation and Basel Committee methodology. I'll start off with recommendation 1. The country is to identify and assess its money laundering and terrorist financing risk. And based on this assessment, countries should apply the risk-based approach Right. It is recommended that countries implement a risk-based approach, and the risk-based approach is described as risk identification and assessment, risk management and mitigation, and documentation, monitoring and documentation. The higher levels of risk require robust measures, and lower levels may be met by simplified measures. The CFA-TF mutual report, evaluation report, sorry, in 2017, found the Bahamas to be partially compliant with recommendation 1. It had not completed the national risk assessment, and the risk-based approach had not been implemented on other sectors, which include gaming, the security sector, and the designated non-financial business and professions. Fortunately, since then, the Bahamas National Risk Assessment has been completed, and for recommendation 1, we have moved from partially compliant to largely compliant, with further
The
improvement.
country risk rating has been completed, Patricia?
Pardon?
The country's risk rating has been completed?
The National Risk Assessment. That report, that has been completed.
It has been completed?
Yes, according to the National Identified Risk Report you sent us.
Yeah, they said in March of 2021. Have you seen it anywhere or anything?
I'm only going by
Or
the report, so the report isn't true.
just put according to the report, because I've been
Okay.
looking for it. I mean,
Right,
I have
according
seen
to the
no
report.
updates.
Okay, so according to the
Yeah,
report,
but
okay.
yeah.
According
Okay.
to the report, wow.
And that's the 2020 report that we reviewed.
Mhm.
Sorry, Ms. Bullitt. So if we answer this on the question, we cannot say that that is what we got from the report.
I mean, just because you're gonna have a cross marker, so that's why I say, just say, according to the report, it should have been completed in March, but we have researched, we have asked, and we have gotten no response. And like we see, just last week, the Securities Commission put out another survey that is supposed to support the risk assessment. So I don't know. And in May, they put out one as well. And so if the country's assessment is already complete, why are you still asking the industry for information? The PLP could come out and say that whole thing was wrong. Chester Cooper soon get on that. Don't worry. Give them a couple months. But see, internationally, they don't want to touch any feathers. And then Carl Bethel is already the chairman. So yeah, they can jump on that soon. The land-based Carl soon. So just say according to the report.
According to the report, okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. So the Basel Committee, Joey?
Okay, I have to go to my note, 1 second for me. So the Basel Committee is an international body that assess and monitors the risk of money laundering and terrorist financing within, in the world, right? So within different countries. The Basel Committee has implemented 17 indicators for money laundering and terrorist financing. But those 17 indicators are broken down into 5 domains. Domain 1 focuses on the quality of a country's AML and terrorist financing framework. And it says that the framework is measured by the AFTA Mutual Evaluation Report. And it says that the report provides a comprehensive assessment of a country's legal framework and its implementation of anti-money laundering and terrorist financing measures. The assessment is also based on compliance with the 40 FATF recommendations and 11 key effectiveness goals and immediate outcomes. That's roughly what domain 1 is. Domain 2 focuses on a country's
measurement of bribery and corruption. And it says that this is measured by an organization called Transparencies International. It scores how corrupt a country's public sector is perceived to be by experts and business executives globally. Why is this important? Corruption is a common predicate offense in money laundering. So countries with high exposure or vulnerability to corruption have a higher risk of money laundering. As we know, the Bahamas has many instances of bribery and corruption. Unfortunately, we have not had reported cases of persons being found guilty of bribery and corruption, but there are notable cases such as the Shane Gibson, the Elmer Campbell, Frank Smith, Michelle Reckley. Those are cases where bribery and corruption have come up, but we have no one convicted of it yet on our books. The third domain is called the Financial Transparency and Standards measurement. And I understand this to be, sorry, I understand this, my understanding of this is that countries ought to provide financial transparency and implement standards to avoid anti-money laundering and terrorist financing within their organizations. And the fourth domain is public transparency and accountability. That's another measurement. When I read this measurement, I thought about the recent, well, two recent points. One being the Auditor General saying that they needed independent auditors to come in to assess their books. And to me, that diminished public confidence in terms of transparency and accountability of our government accounts. Direct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Bullitt.
You're correct.
Sorry?
And we have a very, I said you're correct. You're correct.
Okay.
Also, our corruption perception index is good, in good standing. So is our bribery index rating. Anybody aware of the CPI index and the bribery index? Did you get that in your research, Joey?
When I read it, it says it reflects how corrupt a country's public sector is perceived by experts and business executives. But
yeah, what's the Bahamas rating?
I was about to say our rating is 6.46 by the Basel Index, which puts us in a medium high category.
Correct. No, what is our CPI index?
What is our
corruption perception index?
I don't know exactly where the Bahamas
it's 65 or it's 65. It's 65 or 66. And remember, I told the story where, you know, I sent the wires and the next week they said we don't do business with countries with a CPI index less than 30. So anything below 45 is considered high risk. And then anything below 30, you can't do any business.
Right. Okay.
Right. So that's the CPI index. And then the Basel, the bribery corruption index, I think it's 195 countries and we are 81 out of 195. So
200 countries.
I guess that's a reasonable, that's a reasonable, rating.
Okay. And the last domain would be, sorry?
That's with nobody ever being charged.
Right. And then the fifth domain would be the political and legal risk domain. I would have thought that we were not completely compliant or completely, that we measured very well under this particular domain, because we have...
We on paper do. We on paper measure very well.
Right, okay, right. Internationally, okay. If we focus only on Basel Committee standards, then the Bahamas I guess, is sound in this particular domain. But what I did not understand this bullet is that we rate overall for basal, we rate at the 6.4, which is medium high. So that would mean under these domains, we don't do very well.
Well, again, remember that it was gravely deficient. We simply just did not respond. Remember,
Okay.
22 of those 40 recommendations were
Agreed.
deficient. So like other
Right.
countries, we just didn't submit information. And
Okay.
at that time, they were very lenient. You see,
Right.
the
And then,
leniency period is now over.
and then we come into 2018, because the Basel Committee has now said that the Bahamas is compliant in, sorry, the FATF says the Bahamas is compliant in a lot of the recommendations. And then as of 2018, we tried to implement several legislations to kind of put us out of the red in terms of the Basel Index.
Correct. Correct. So we are compliant in 30 and largely compliant in 10. So I don't know what's the update from that last update that came out in 2020.
Right.
Yeah.
That's all I have for that.
Okay. Okay. So very good. Anybody doing questions on risk? There perhaps maybe 2 or 3 risk questions. So if you're going to do the questions on risk, answer all the risk questions, you know, or if you're going to do it on sanctions, answer all the sanctions questions, you know. To me, that makes it easier. Okay.
Ms. Millard.
Okay. Any other questions?
Ms. Millard,
Go ahead.
I'm having a little difficulty. When you said the CPI index, right? You said that any country below 30% it's not a good thing. They don't accept, I think you said they don't accept transactions for countries under 30%. But if we're at 66,
Right.
are we 66 would be bad, right?
No, 45, if anything 45 and below is high risk. So you could get a rating up to 100. So we're like in the middle.
Okay, so for 66%,
it's reasonable.
It's reasonable, and not for us for corruption and for corruption, right?
Right, and that's anybody under 45. So corruption perception means your prime minister, or like you've been impeached. But of course, you know, if you look at the USA, I'm sure they're under Donald Trump, but he didn't get impeached. But you know, he isn't as lucky as other countries where, like in Brazil, the governor of the central bank has been to jail, and you know, the president has been impeached before in Mexico and Brazil. These countries that aren't as powerful as the US. So the US could have gotten away with that, but they can't. And so because if a president is impeached, definitely you drop in below 45. Right? And let's just say Turks and Caicos had their AML structure in place, which they don't. When MISIC was removed, definitely, you know, they would have dropped below 45, and you would find that between you have a 15% leverage where other countries just say we don't do business with you. So we already, the US didn't do business with you. Already the US had you blocked out. So you could have gone around to the European banks, and the European banks then said, listen, our regulators are getting pressure and coming down on us and saying that if we continue to send wires to circumvent the US, then we can send them for the ones that are between 45 and 30. The ones are below 30, which is like Madagascar, Russia, Lebanon. No, we block them out completely. Okay.
But looking at
they are like the sanctioned countries.
Okay, but looking when Joey and I looked at the ratings and the Basel index, and we were at 6.4, which was very close to orange and red. So you're saying that the yellow is medium.
Medium, right.
Okay.
The yellow is medium. And again, don't confuse it now. That's the country's risk rating. That's the Basel Committee. Transparency International is the CPI index. the corruption perception index. Then there's a bribery index. So their Basel committee uses your bribery index as well as your CPI index. And I think that's category 2A, Joey, that they fall under.
Yes.
To determine, yeah, so they use that as a category in your risk rating as a country.
Okay. Got it.
It's embedded into your country's risk rating. So if you have a very low CPI index and a very low bribery index, then of course, that's going to contribute to your overall country's risk rating.
Okay, your country's risk
If you
rating.
ain't the
Okay.
US. If you ain't the US.
You're right. Okay.
Right. Or
Okay.
or a UK underlying country like Cable and Turks and Caicos. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Okay, great. Any other questions? No? Okay, so let me cover question 9 and 10 quickly. Section 319 of the US Patriot Act. This normally comes on the Wolfsburg questionnaire. The Wolfsburg questionnaire is for correspondent banking. If you wanna, they're the 8 largest correspondent banks around the world, which is the Deutsche Bank, the Chase, the Wells Fargo. All of the wires go through these 8 banks around the world. And unless you go outside of the US into Europe. And so section 319 of the US Patriot Act deals with foreign offshore banks and terrorist financing. And so the US currency has an extraterritorial arm where they once your country offers US currency, which I think most countries in the world, the 195 countries that they normally give information on, 190 offers US currency. So that means that that currency, the usage of that currency allows the Patriot Act to be applicable to your country, even though it's US law. So this Patriot Act allows the US to come in and seize information, arrest persons, bring them before a US court. So we had a similar situation with Julius Baer the other day, where they operated in the Bahamas. They had Venezuelan accounts. They did a lot of fraud. Like they took advantage of the situation that was going on in Venezuela, where they knew that, you know, the rate of the money was dropping every day. So there's like 250 Venezuelan dollars to one, or bolivar to one US dollar. And the money couldn't be moved. A lot of companies had high receivables, but we were still opening up the accounts in Bahamas. And because we know that the US had Venezuela blocked, and then the CPI index of Venezuela is 16. And so you couldn't even get the money through the European banks. They were doing fraud across those accounts because they basically the money was stuck. And again, all of that happened in the Bahamas, but they were able to prosecute. And, you know, the guy is locked up for 10 years in the US, and he spilled his guts, you know, and everybody who was involved. So I expect more cases to come out of that one issue. But even though we're a Bahamian bank, once we offer correspondent banking service, we are subjected to this Patriot Act. And they ask you that on your Wolfsburg questionnaire. You are a foreign entity, foreign to the US. Therefore, are you subjected to the US Patriot Act? And you must say yes. If you say no, then they don't open up your correspondent banking account, and then you're not allowed to send wires. And again, in the offshore world, nobody walks into the bank. Everybody sends an email and say, wire this, transfer that, or what have you. So if you can't send wires, then basically you don't have a business, okay? And so Section 319 allows the US to, like I said, subpoena, freeze, and prosecute under US law should there be an incident of money laundering or terrorism financing. Okay? Are we good? Any questions?
Yeah.
We understand the
No.
extra tech. territorial arm. We understand how they have all the money flowing through the Fed so they can prosecute you. So once that wire goes to any US correspondent bank, it passes through the Fed. They have strategically placed the correspondent banking SWIFT in that way. And I think central bank is now even going to operate a SWIFT center where they will be checking wires just to make sure we are not circumventing the Patriot Act and trying to go through Europe. But even Europe has clamped down. Like I said, 1 week I sent money to Madagascar and Russia. The next week I couldn't pay the people's salaries because their CPI index was less than 30. Okay, and again, very easy question to answer. Okay. Okay, and then customer due diligence and enhanced due diligence. More than likely, it'll be a scenario question with a lot of high-risk red flags, and then you'd have to determine if you rate the customer high, medium, or low, and why, and list the red flags, and say you will monitor annually. You'll get board approval or a committee approval, and you would get source of wealth versus source of income. Yeah, and whatever you'll get a proximal report if necessary, if the person is high risk. Okay, and then annual monitoring. So that would be the basis of, the customer due diligence question. And of course, we all know the 5 statutory requirements, which are identification, record keeping, monitoring, the MLRO, and training. Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Are we good?
Yes,
I
ma'am.
think so.
Good. Any questions on section 319 and customer due diligence?
No.
No, Ebony, Ebony wanted to ask some questions on the homework. Ebony,
I'm good-ish. I'm good.
you good with the homework?
Yeah.
Okay, you sure? Don't email me tomorrow. No more emails from Miss Bullet. Speak now, forever hold your peace.
This class helped quite a bit. So I feel I was extremely
Confident,
nervous.
right?
No. I was extremely nervous. Now I'm just a tad bit nervous.
There's no need to be nervous. Either you know it or you don't at this point. And like I said, this is what we use the review class for. And this has been a breath of fresh air because like I say, this week I've been having review classes and I was falling off my chair. I could not believe the questions and just reading the regurgitation of the book and no research and persons just simply did not understand. And I felt like, oh my God, are we at the beginning or are we at the end? Because I was very, very disappointed this week. But this, I'm glad I'm ending on a very positive note. Everybody's answer, showed that they have a level of understanding and I didn't see any copy and paste from the book and I got examples. And like I said, that's the key to proving your understanding. Examples, examples, examples. According to the Nassau Guardian, according to the update, according to the Basel Committee. Okay, and you should be fine. But I'm very pleased with the responses and that we got today. And I trust that all of you found it beneficial as well. Yeah. And if you just took some notes, you would know the key points to develop.
Will this recording be available to us?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
but when? So I can email Miguel in a minute.
Yeah,
When?
Miguel is
We still have to
having some difficulties today. He has a family member that's very, very ill and he's dealing with that. So perhaps give him till Monday, please.
Monday. Okay, will do.
Yeah. But I will, as soon as he gets back in office, I will, remind him that it's important that he gets this up. But he is very under duress today.
Ms. Bullard,
Yes.
hi. I'm sorry. You gave me a chance to ask about the homework questions, and let me just ask. Question, one of the questions was number 2, where I asked about the company, your company operates in several jurisdictions. Of course, these are the sanctioned jurisdictions, and wanted to put an document in place to speak about,
Sanctions
I guess, the
regime.
breaches yeah. So if something like that, are we just listing what the requirements, and I guess.
More than likely, it's going to be high risk jurisdictions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so, once you found out there was high risk, what would you do? Enhanced due diligence. So they would be the controls that you would put in. You know, first you establish your risk appetite. Are we even going to do business with this country because of the risks? These are the risks involved. Then if yes, these are the controls that we will put in place.
Okay. So just basically for something like that, we're just listing out. Are we doing business? We make a determination. Are we going to do business? Yes, we're going to do business. Since we're doing business, these are the measures. What I was just basically listing. More or less.
Right. And if we're not going to do business, why?
Okay.
And basically, you just say it's outside of your risk appetite. We don't want to suffer the reputational risks, or stuff like that.
Okay.
Ms. B, I know you said we have like 15 multiple choice, I think it is. And you said that
Yes.
2 points each.
Sorry?
I know you said there are about 15 multiple choice questions, and you said there are about 2 points each.
They're like 2 points each, yes. So of course, it's this WAW9. Make sure on the different taxes, make sure you know how to, because they become tricky. Make sure you know these questions. I don't know if the poker and I think a lot of y'all still got one question. I always say this: the fine for failing to disclose and tipping off, it's the same fine. Stop getting one right in intro. Too many people got one right, and so yeah, please carry it over to intermediate. That is the most incorrect question every exam. Why don't we get that? And I say it every review class. The answer is the same. Stop only getting one right. Or you say, I already know. Let me get 1 out of 2.
Ms. Bullard, to be honest with you, that was my thought in intro.
Everybody's thought. Everybody.
My thought was,
but did I not say it?
So let me get one right.
Did I not say it 100 times?
You said it 150 times.
You said it 100 times. I'm sure a lot of persons remembered it too.
I rest my case. I can put that on the exam 4 times. So y'all got 19. Y'all got 19 multiple choice.
Say that one more time for me, please.
Y'all get 2 right. Sorry?
Say what you said again one more time for me, please. You said something is the same.
Failing to disclose and tipping off.
The one and the same. Oh,
it's the same fine. Yeah, but everybody, and I say this is beyond every exam, and I tell people that, and they still get one wrong. Like Ebony say, I say it 150 times, and still nobody going to look it up to make sure.
And what is the fine, Miss Bullard?
Look it up. Poker,
look it up. Right.
Miss Bullard officially on Christmas. Miss officially on Christmas vacation.
Miss Bullard, for those who submitted the homework, and didn't receive their grades back as yet.
When you submit your homework?
I think that was
not last night though.
No, last month.
Last night.
November. No, the end of the last week in November, I think it was.
So Linda, you submitted homework and then you get that back and mean you've been emailing back and forth?
Yeah, remember I had to do it over again. And the last time when I got clarification with Jasmine assistant, I sent it again. That was the end of November. I ain't get it
Oh,
back.
okay.
I kept checking.
I gotta look for that. Okay, I gotta look for that then. I let me check with the cross marker, see if she has the second one, because I don't remember receiving the second one. I only see this email there. I tell you to redo.
Yeah, and you emailed me back that same morning and say receive it, thanks.
Oh, okay, I'll check back with her.
Hi, Miss
Thank
Bullet
you.
McDonald. I didn't get my own back either.
McDonald, you don't get
Yeah.
your grade either. Okay, let me just take,
No.
let me look.
Hello?
Hi.
Hi, for the person who would have asked about the tipping off and business close fine. If I remember correctly, like if one is on summary conviction, you have an imprisonment sentence of up to 12 years or a fine of up to $500 or both. And if you're on conviction, it is up to 20 years or a fine or both. So the
Thank you
difference
so
will be
much.
summary conviction, and then you have conviction.
Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, Melanie, did you resubmit?
No, I
Because I
didn't.
see this email. Okay, but that's
No.
what happened, because, yeah, you have to put that in Word.
I had to.
I see a request for you to retype it, eh?
No, I didn't get that. I didn't get that because I sent in my homework in like 2 days before. I didn't get anything back.
Okay, and I see a request to have you type it in. You sent it in an email and it was asking you type it in Word?
Yeah, no, I didn't get that back at all. I typed it in. I typed it.
Okay.
I didn't get it.
Okay, I'll double check.
Yeah, I didn't get any response back.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so that's Melanie, and I already forget the first person and the spelling and writing.
Talinda.
Melanie and Talinda. Melanie and Talinda.
Ms. Bullet, I have a question,
Okay.
please.
Yeah.
I hope you don't say
Go
that you
ahead.
parents, I know when the class initially started, the course initially started, you said that there's a high chance that the homework question 1 was the mandatory. Then later on in the course, I think we upset you. And you said that you may make the methodology the mandatory question. Can I ask what is the mandatory question, please?
Number 1, but I could put methodology in there
No, 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 no,
somewhere.
no.
I could put it in there.
No, Miss Bullard. The exam is already prepared. Leave it. I don't want to
No,
put
but there's
too
a
many
question. No, but there is a question on methodology.
Okay, that's
The
fine.
other 10 questions, the other 10 questions have methodology in it, so no one answer it. How
That's
about
fine.
that?
Perfect. Thank you. I appreciate that. Don't make any changes.
No, yeah, no, but it is number 1. Number 1 is the mandatory, and then if you are answering risk, you definitely need to know methodology.
Got you. Thank you.
Okay.
Miss Bullet, so you did my homework wasn't graded at all?
I cannot say that. I see an email where I got it and say, please request the student put this in Word. Because I think you sent it in an email.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah, I sent it. Yeah, I sent it in email, but it was typed.
It was typed. Okay, yeah. So I just have to do some research. You should get it by Sunday.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions or concerns? No? Okay, ladies, we did it. And like I said, I'm very confident and I'm very pleased with the intellect and the level of participation and the discussions. And I feel very confident. So y'all just pray away the nerves. You know what to do. Most of you are comfortably sitting in this exam, but 30%, that means we should see a lot of A's and a lot of good grades. And again, please don't overwhelm yourself. I have persons who don't get an A and they say, "Oh, Miss Bullet, I need an A. I feel like a failure." No, please don't set the bar too high. Okay. And there's no need to retake. 70% is the overall passing. Once you get the 70%, just you know what you need to do to get to the next step. Okay. And so don't be so hard on yourself. And I hope this is a very heavy class. And so I do hope that you do have some time off and some time to study. And like I said, organize yourself, try and free up your Friday afternoon. Don't cook, just relax, unwind, and have your hands massaged in preparation for the writing on Saturday morning. So again, please call the office, and you ought to go in 9:30 or 12:30. And Ms. Dean is expecting a call and an appointment from each of you. If you miss this exam, there won't be another one until January. Okay, but we do expect each person to be there to sit the exam. And we have had some persons that just did not show up and did not call. And so if you don't show up and you don't call and make prior arrangement with Ms. Dean, you will still be charged the 150 to sit the exam in January. Okay, so to avoid that charge altogether. If for some reason you cannot make it, or you want to make other arrangements, please contact Ms. Dean and arrange that with her first.
Miss
Okay?
the results will be out before the holidays?
I doubt it. I seriously doubt it.
Okay.
But persons, Ms. Dean is accepting registrations for ICA. And
Oh,
so for the
okay,
persons going
okay.
on to ICA, that that will be fine.
Okay.
You can register and secure your spot, because she's
Right.
filling up. And so make sure, secure your spot and register. So when you go to make
Okay,
the
all right.
appointment, register the same time for ICA.
Okay, thank you.
And don't be concerned about the grade. Just the whole purpose of this class was for persons to, who wanted to move on to ICA to move in there. And so I don't think she put anybody in this class who we did not expect to make it on into ICA. Okay, so if you're ready now, you register.
Are you a lecturer for ICA?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right.
I'm so sorry to disappoint you, Julie. Yes, you'll
No, I'm not
see me again.
disappointed at all. I'm not disappointed at all. I thought it was like online, international lecturers, sorry.
Yeah. So it's 6 of us because we localize. Remember, the books are UK based, and so we localize
Right.
it, to Bahamian. But and in the questions that you answer, the 3,500 word essays, it's from a jurisdiction of your choice, and of course, you would pick the Bahamas.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. So there are about 6 different lectures.
Okay.
Okay, Bakan is saying how many hours? The exam is 3 hours. Please try to get there at least 10 or 15 minutes before. So if you're starting at 9:30, 9:15 is a good time to be there. If you're starting at 12:30, 12:15, please only bring your car keys and your mask. No books. It's going to be recorded. I've gone through what happens if you have to go to counseling. If you caught cheating, this is not open book. Okay, and we are fully prepared. We have loads of information. We've scaled it down, and we should know what is required. The percentage, to pass the class is 70%. Okay, and
So we're already at
some
30.
of you are already at 30. Most of you. Okay, so you only need another 40% to go in there. But please don't think that, oh, I done halfway there, I don't need to do this. No, do your best. It's very easy to get an A. Okay, Pecan, go ahead.
I just received an email from Miss Dean, and she told me that my exam is gonna be online. Is this normal?
Are you in Bahamas?
Yes.
In Nassau?
Yes.
Then I know you sure it was from Miss Dean?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's her email.
Okay, she might have made a mistake. Just call her by phone, please. She's in office today.
Okay, perfect. I'll do that. Thank you.
Yeah, because in case she confused you, is there anybody that's not in Nassau? That's only Rosalind, right?
Ebony
Yeah,
is
I
not
think
in Nassau.
someone, yeah.
Yeah, and Ebony. So she may have missed Bakan. So yeah, call her by phone, please. And Ebony, you spoke to her already?
I haven't, but I know of the arrangement. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
I know.
I sent her an email this week, but I didn't get a reply.
Okay, I'm going to speak to her right after to let her know about Bakan. I tell her reply to Joey and Ebony and Rosalinda to make sure that everybody is on board.
Yes, 12. You said there's a 12:30 option, right?
Sorry?
12:30 option for the exam.
Yeah, 9:30 and then 12:30.
All
So I
right.
think it's about 60 in person. So yeah, in 8 classrooms. So they only want 1 or 2 in each classroom.
You mean
Okay.
9 a.m.
No,
9
9:30 and 12. She told you 9 a.m.?
Yeah, she said 9 a.m. for me.
Okay. Okay, whatever Miss Dean says.
Okay, she didn't give me a reply. Could you please make sure, Miss Bullet? I wanted to do 12:30, the afternoon one.
She didn't reply to me
Yeah.
either. I sent her an email to ask her to do the 9 o'clock class, 9 o'clock exam,
Okay,
but
so
she didn't respond to my email.
okay, I'm going to speak to her right after to tell her
Thank
to
you.
respond to everybody.
Miss Bullet, Miss Bullet, Miss Bullet.
Yes.
One last question for Patricia. What grade do you have to get to get an A? That's 100? Or is
No,
that
no,
90?
no. If you didn't have any points going in. Oh, you mean the overall grade? 90% is 100. Anything over 90% is 100.
Okay.
So if you already have 30%, you need at least I think 75 or 80 on the exam. And you should get an A. So anything over 90% is an A. Okay?
Miss Bullard,
Yes.
I made my bookings via telephone and she confirmed. So do you think I need to call her back to find out if she has it correct?
Did she tell you 9 or 9:30?
12:30.
She told you 12:30. Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess if she probably told the persons in the morning 9 and then probably told them to come at 9 and then the exam will start at 9:30. But again, I am, if she already confirmed with you, whatever she told you is there at the office. I'm not. So whatever she told you, just stick with it and it should be fine.
Okay.
I'm confirmed at 9:30. Not 9.
Okay, so what I will do is I will let her send an email to everybody to I'll let her know that some persons are confirmed at 9:30 and some are confirmed at 9. Okay, but I do believe it's 9:30 and 12:30, and she probably
And
told you,
some
Patricia,
people she
9
didn't
o'clock.
respond to via email.
Yeah, yeah. So she probably told Patricia 9 o'clock just to be early.
Yeah,
you know?
intro was at 9. But
Sorry? I didn't hear you, Talinda. Okay, I think we lost Talinda.
no, I'm
Okay.
saying intro was also at 9:30.
Yeah. Oh, wait, but I'll ask her to confirm to everyone. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, so if there are no further questions, ladies, it's been a pleasure. I do hope to see most of you again in ICA, and if not, this again, like I said, this was just the beginning. Whatever, if you've decided that compliance is not for you and you can't deal with Ms. Bullet anymore, that's fine. But please just continue on your professional development journey, and whatever class that you see fit, or if you already have a first degree, just do the continuous development courses, attend your industry updates, follow the Attorney General's office, follow the Bahamas Financial Services Board, follow your regulator, and just keep abreast. Okay, and so all of you are now in my network, and so I'll be reaching out. Whenever I need help, I'll be calling on all of you guys, and I hope to see you in the various civic organizations. And like I said, I was most pleased in this last election. I saw, some posters of some students around. So it's good to network with like-minded persons and just share ideas. Okay, so thank you so much.
Thank you for your lectures as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, bye-bye,
You're
everyone.
welcome. Okay, so now enjoy your last weekend before you have to tie yourself down. Unwind, have fun, and then prepare for the exam, and you'll be fine. So best of luck in the exam.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
Take care.
Okay, well, take care. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, you
Thank you.
too.
You too.
Thank you.